The boys are back in town. Well, technically, we never actually left town,
Yeah, well,
but we went from our necks of the woods to meet up for the first time in some time with each other to go to the Mecca for all comic book fans. That, of course, being New York Comic Con.
we pray at the
This
altar.
was an absolutely incredible event. If you've been following it online, I don't have to tell you that. But what we are going to do today is Marco, Tyler, and I are going to talk to you not just about all the big news that came out of the event and everything. We're going to get into all that. But we're also going to talk about our experience and what it was like for us, because to me, this was the best New York Comic Con of all time for the Comics Pals. So I'm super excited to get into that. I'm excited to shout out some of the people that we were lucky enough to meet, including some of you who we ran into at the event. That was a bunch of fun. And I know it's a late night stream. Thank you all for joining us, whether you were with us live or in the future. We're gonna have a good time tonight. We have Marco.
Yo, what's up, pals? Oh,
We got Tyler.
My feet don't exist anymore. Hi, guys.
yeah, dude.
I feel you. And I'm Sean. I am exhausted. When I woke up this morning, I felt like I was hit by a train, but I'm here now. And you know what? I feel okay.
You texted us this morning because I saw Marco before you this morning. You're like, yo, I'm dragging ass today. And I'm like, I go to Marco. I'm like, what the hell does he mean he's dragging
yeah, he's-
ass?
He's
You
a
never
tired
heard that?
boy.
No, I haven't. I didn't know the
Oh.
severity of what that meant.
Oh, it just means you're moving slow.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yo,
assumed that much. I just didn't know what the level of slow. I didn't know if you were having ass related issues to either. I got a little literal with it. I'm glad you weren't though.
No, dude. If I were having ass related issues, then I probably wouldn't have been able to get my ass to the con. Because the worst thing you can do, we all know it, we've all been there. You do not want to be the guy dropping a deuce
Mm-mm.
in those toilets.
No, thank you.
I heard some people struggling this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh, yeah.
Pray
Hey,
for those people.
but
I-
we are. Go ahead.
It was after the Ghost Machine booth, so I had to run to the bathroom because we had Saturday was big for us. I ran to the bathroom and there was like, oh, there's a stall open. Everyone's waiting in line. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go in the stall. And I went in, I went, oh, and I turned right around, and I had to go piss next to Brian Hitch.
Sick. I would love that. But we were lucky enough to get these bad boys, these press badges,
Oh,
which, lots of perks. It's cool. But if you need to take a dump, right, we can hit that press bathroom. And I'll tell you this, it's a lot cleaner than the public ones.
Gorgeous. I would have eaten my lunch off of it.
let's not go
That's
that
nasty.
Just kidding. I didn't eat lunch.
far.
That's true. Although I will say, huge shout out to the patrons.
Hey.
Huge shout out to the channel members, because your boys were able to eat at least two. How many lunches? We had one lunch.
Yeah.
We only had one lunch
Well, lunch all weekend. Yeah.
all
you-
weekend.
You and I had one, right? Oh, I
We
don't
had
remember
dinner.
now. We did. That's right.
Technically, that was dinner because that
It
was
was.
like
Late.
later on.
Yeah.
That was like after 6.
That's right.
So I'm not even gonna lie. We were joking. We were like, "Yo, thank you to Atomic Hound." Like we were shouting you guys out mid meal because you were making that possible. So, at the end of the day, it always comes back to you guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that there are so many of you here with us right now. Not impromptu, but on an off day, technically, that you would show up with this scheduling change. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We were there, affirmations the entire time. This French fry dedicated to.
Spiral Storm,
You were eating
Yeah.
the MP burger for dinner.
Hell
yeah.
Hell yeah, absolutely. What did we eat? Oh, we had those. Oh my God. So we went out to the food. They had like a food truck area, right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
So we went to go grab some food, and Tyler went to go grab something separate, and so it was
Yeah.
Marco and I. And our bill for what we grabbed, that mind you, it's a food truck. We didn't sit down at a restaurant, nothing like that. Our bill was $64.
Crazy, dude.
$64.
It's
you-
untenable.
I got chicken tenders and fries. They gave me 3 chicken tenders.
Skipped
A
out.
threefer? That's why I went with the double glizzied shaboing boing from Walter's Hot Dogs.
Look good.
Sounds nasty.
It was all mustarded up. Loved it.
Yeah, yeah. They hid the thinnest little wiener there.
Ooh. Ugh. No, Aaron Ruiz is, you're totally right. He's like, each bite, thank you, Atomic Hound. Thank you, Dan Trudeau. Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Actually, it was a point of reflection.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Um, I want to say thank you to all the listeners who, popped out and were at the event and said hey to us. Blunt Eastwood, thank you for saying hey to us.
Yeah.
Grayson Red, thank you for saying hey to us. We got a picture with him. That was awesome. Ryan Klubeck, thank you. Thank you. I don't know if you'll even hear this, but thank you so much for stopping us and taking a picture with us. Obviously, Catherine, we got to see Catherine. That was awesome. We got a picture with her. So quite a few of you, even ones that I didn't get to see, because it was like every time I was doing an interview,
Yeah, that's right.
someone would come up to the other pals and say, "Oh yeah, I like the show," and I wouldn't get to see the love. Show me the
Yeah.
love.
That happened like at least 3 times where I was walking to go drop a package off and someone's like, "Oh my God, hey, love the show." They saw the show. I'm like, "Oh, thank you so much." And then Sean was doing an interview. I forgot who, and somebody from behind us came over. It's like, "Oh, hey, the comic spells. Oh yeah, they're doing their thing. Hey, look at that." You just missed out, Sean.
And like we've had people like we were waiting in line for what was it, the DC panel, and I don't know, he didn't say his name.
Blunt Eastwood.
That was Blunt
that was
Eastwood.
Blunt Eastwood. Okay,
Yeah,
cool,
yeah.
cool. Yeah, he was
Is
like,
he in
oh
the
yeah,
chat?
I recognize you guys.
I don't know if he's in the chat, but
Uh, Joe says, "Hey pals, how's Comic Con?" Well, Comic Con is a wrap, and we are here to discuss the ins and outs of it and let you guys know just how great of a time it was. And obviously, you're all aware that there was some big news, and we're gonna get into that here in a few minutes. Casbot says, "Hi, all the way from Texas. Hey to you, my friend. Good to
howdy.
see you. Haven't seen the name before. Happy to have you with us." Um, all right. So the other thing I want to say before we zip forward is thank you to all the amazing creators we got to interview and talk to.
Hmm.
We didn't necessarily interview every single creator we spoke with. There were a lot of people that we were networking with and trying to build for the future. And hopefully that's stuff that you guys will see down the road. But man, did we get a bunch of great interviews.
Working on
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
yeah. There's gonna be some cool stuff coming.
Really excited for a lot of the conversations, for a lot of not necessarily reveals, but a lot of what we get to hear perspective on from these creators.
Flo Dameron. Oh my God, bro. With the
Game is
$4.99
game.
says game is game.
All right.
Comic Con was awesome. But and I was saving you, Flo, for the part where I was gonna thank all the YouTubers that we ran into and all those people. But it was awesome getting to hang out with you, brother. The Bada Boom podcast, they were representing at New York Comic Con, and it was cool to get to build with you and chit chat.
Yeah, I met Troy from Bada Boom at the we went to like a little comicsology announcement panel. It was a little offsite on Friday morning. It was the first thing I did for the weekend, and I was like, all right, already meeting people. So cool seeing you
Yo,
guys.
shout out to John Carlos here. He's the guy that we bumped into on the middle of the street. He's just like, "Yo, hey, how's it going?" And I was like, "Oh, thank you so much, bro. Like, appreciate the channel. Thank you for tuning in, man. Really appreciate it."
That's awesome. Yeah. We definitely felt the love.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for coming up on 8 years. And every year for the last 3, it's gotten bigger and bigger. More people coming up to us and things of that nature. This year was the biggest year by far. Obviously, I'm sure there were people who saw us that didn't have the time or courage to come up, but it means the world when you guys do. Like, we're not that far removed from just being fans and not press and just wanting to speak to the people that we love and the creators that we love so much. And now that we get to, go behind the curtain, and some of them we're on first name basis with, when you guys come up to us, I still remember waiting in line to talk to Bendis. So I would always want to give time to anybody who wants to say anything to me. So thank you for those of you who reached out. That's awesome.
And thank you, Atomic Hound. There you go. 1999 super chat. I will be there someday. It sounds amazing. We are
Yes, it
looking
is.
forward to that day.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
owe you a beer.
I was talking to every dog I found. I was out there. I'm like, you Atomic Hound? Like, no, that's just a dog.
Wait, what would you guys rather hear? What would you got? Because we got a show ready for you. But what would you rather hear? Would you rather hear what our experience was at Comic Con first, or would you rather we get into the news? I'll leave it up to you guys. What do you want to hear us talk about? Because we had an awesome time. Needless to say, 4 days of yes, a grind,
Mm.
but a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Damn, there's like three distinct memories in my mind of just the weekend that I want to shout out.
Mm.
I'm so excited. Please let us splurge.
One of them's
Please let us
yours.
talk about the fucking the weekend, man.
You're just gonna talk about your Sturgill Simpson concert you went to.
Yeah, too.
Wait, you went to a concert?
You went to a concert last
Yeah.
night, dude.
Saturday.
What?
Yeah, for 3 hours.
You're fucking nuts.
Yo, it was my cousin's birthday, and I pull up for this guy. We're brothers from like since 3 years old, dude, and uh he was celebrating his birthday. He got tickets on for his birthday that he happened to be coming Sturgill to Forest Hill Stadium, which isn't too far of a trip for me. It was on my way
Forest Hills
back
is
home
great.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Nice day out
great.
yesterday too. Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
beautiful, dude. And I expected like, an hour and a half because that's what you typically do. I'm like, it's interesting that he's starting at 7.
Mm.
My dude went till 10 p.m., 3 hours. My feet, had floor tickets, dying.
all right. People want the news, Sean.
Oh, there
By
you
and
go.
large. All right. You answered. We
We
will
got
give
it.
you what you want. So, there was a ton of news that came out of this event. I would say, to my recollection, probably one of the most newsworthy and buzzy New York Comic Cons in a long time.
Yeah, for DC, I feel like in particular, it's been a
Yeah.
while since I feel like we've gotten a lot of buzz, and maybe it was just because we were so hyped and we were in the panel, that it made it that much more exciting. But I felt like we've got a lot coming out of that.
And I think on the inverse, Marvel felt like they didn't really announce much. There's a big announcement here and a couple smaller ones here and there, but in terms of like the buzz, it was Indies and DC for me this year in terms of the big news.
Yeah, true.
Spiral Storm with the 5 spot says, my virtual love to Sean and the other pal since I couldn't be at the con. Well, Spiral, virtual love right back to you. And I would love to have the opportunity one day to give you, a hug or a fist bump or a handshake or whatever you're comfortable with down the road at a con we could see you at. It's always a pleasure to meet you, fine, lovely people. Hey, Harris, were you there, man? Were you at New York Comic Con? I missed you, man. It would have been cool to say hello, but I didn't know if you made it out. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's get into the news. The biggest announcement, I think, is something that we talked about at length last week because Bleeding Cool nailed it again. For all the doubters, for all the haters, they got it right, and they got multiple announcements right. To be fair,
Rich let people like know, like he's like, oh, hold on, all the big news we found out earlier in the week. Just saying.
yeah, yeah. So the big one is the fact that Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee are in fact returning to the scene of the crime for Hush Part 2. They're not simply going to be doing the core Batman title. That is a fact. They are the next creative team to take
Ooh.
over the book after Chip Zdarsky, whose run is coming to an end. So not only is that the case, but they're returning to give us a sequel to come on, the hit series Hush. That's going to begin with Batman 158 in March. March is a big month for comics. There were a lot of March announcements. This is massive. This was revealed, I believe, at the Jim Lee and Friends or Jim Lee Experience panel
Oh yeah,
that
that's right.
happened. Massive panel. And yeah, Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee are back.
It's exciting. Huge, huge news. And I love the hashtag MP, hashtag hush, H2SH. I remember we were talking about this at the con. Whatever happened to just naming it into the number two? No
Yeah.
subtitle, nothing. Hush two, done.
But Sled's right. Shouldn't it be HU2H, not H2SH? Isn't the two
Nah,
closer to
I like the taking the vowel there.
Hush Tua?
Furious.
Hush Tua? Oh, no, that might be.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Hush Folia Do. Hilo dropping that gem. That's good. Hush Furious. I like it. Keep it up. What else can we do? What other variations can we throw on that thing?
Yeah,
If
Tilo
only,
says hush two, electric boogaloo.
yeah, if only Hush had a sequel comic already. Oh, wait a minute.
Heart of Hush, you're referring to?
Yeah, it has a couple Paul Dini ones with Dustin Nguyen.
Yeah, and they're excellent, but
They are good. Yeah.
we are going back to the OG, and that's really exciting. I guess I wasn't actually anticipating that it would be Hush 2. I thought it would be, something different, like them returning, but to do something different. It's very interesting to me that they're going back to Hush because that was a mystery, just like the Long Halloween. But I feel like now that we know who Hush is and, the Thomas Elliot of it all, what is left to say? That I'm very compelled by.
Mm, See, I like that that he leaves being this like figure that gets lost in the wind. I like that he kind of can permeate and almost haunt Batman and Gotham. So I liked that that's the way that we ended Hush in the first place, and for him to come back, I think it makes a lot of sense to just be able to come in as the big bad. You have to get through a plethora of other characters to potentially get to the boss.
You mean like Hush 1?
Hey, whoa! But this time they fight. This time there's a clear winner.
I'm not gonna be the naysayer of the group, but I will say that seeing it was Hush 2 made me a little less excited about it. Because the fact that they were coming back alone was a little bit like, all right, do we really need to go back to this? Well, it's a great team, but there is some question regarding on like maybe it's going back a step to really have the same team on it. But then knowing they're just doing Hush 2 rather than a new story, I'm now in the stage of all right, I'll see it when I see it. I don't know. I don't know if like the hype is there. Maybe once I see more art, it'll go there. But it did take the wind out of my sails a little bit. I'm still excited, but less so knowing that it's not like a brand new thing that they're doing. It's a continuation in a way.
I like what CW Gordon's saying here. Hopefully, hoping we get a rundown of an entire new Rose Gallery like we did in Hush One. Like I think that you get to explore more parts of the Bat family, the Bat universe. Maybe there's more inclusion of Robin. Maybe Batgirl's involved. Like you can expand upon it. Like how does Hush now that he is revealed go more unhinged? I think there's a lot of potential there. I hear what you're saying, Tyler. That like maybe it's not as exciting because you're worried that they're going to kind of just go over already tread ground. But I think there's a lot to do in the sandbox still of Hush.
Well, we'll see. I think it's exciting that if they approach it in the same style that they did Hush and that Loeb is sort of famous for, there are a lot of villains we've never seen Jim Lee draw. Professor Pig
It's
stands
the big
out.
one, yeah.
Oh,
The Flamingo stands out to me. I would love to see that. Jim Lee's rendition of him. I feel like there are plenty of characters that have been introduced over the last 20 years that Jim Lee just hasn't gotten to draw.
think
Ghostmaker,
Bloom comes back.
Punchline is probably another
Punch.
big one. Yeah.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
stop it
yeah.
now.
Yeah. Or even like
Stop
even
it.
just the newer iteration of Harley and the way her and Poison Ivy's dynamic is like widely different than when Hush came out.
Oh, that's a good point. I mean, Ivy's different now. Like, how does that play into
Yeah.
the? How do you take her new character and further expand that?
And we have 3 Jokers now, so who knows?
You can have your pick.
Tilo says Mr. Bloom. That's a great. Oh, dude,
Yeah.
they gotta do something with Mr. Bloom. I love that
Mr.
character.
Bloom is actually in the Penguin,
The show?
the show. It's watch the show.
I,
I'm watching this show. What are you talking about?
It's a new take on him. He's the drug scientist.
Which character? Well, but like
He's like
you're caught up.
yeah. It's the one they show the new drug they're making with the
Yeah,
mushrooms. The
yeah.
guy that's telling him about that says, "My name is Mr. Dr. Bloom or whatever."
Ah,
Yeah, that's
okay.
it's a little cameo, really.
mm,
Ruben Reyes says, "Hey pals, I'm super new to your group. Was blown away by your new 52 deep dive. Catching my first live show. Ruben, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It means the world to me when you guys shout out the new 52 deep dive. I put a lot of work into that, so thank you so much and welcome. Glad to have you with us.
yeah.
Um,
JetX, I'm most excited for seeing Jim Lee draw the modern Bat family. It's been a long time. Good to see him come back.
Let's see him draw Signal.
Yeah.
Spiral Storm says, I don't want to see Chip on ASM after that Daredevil stuff. That's a good question. Like, what's next for Chip? I heard that Chip was going to be doing some more Marvel stuff. That's what I heard.
I mean, I know I just said don't go back to the well, but I could always do with more Howard.
Oh God.
I mean, but here's the thing: we'll talk about it later. Ryan North is going to be kind of upping his I guess cachet at Marvel coming up, and Chip and Ryan North have worked hand in hand on a lot of stuff. So to see them maybe play around a little bit be fun. But yeah, I'm excited to see where else Chip goes after once Hush Tua starts out.
Did you guys see the preview art?
I saw some of it. Yeah.
Looks fire. It looks real good.
Yeah.
Jim Lee's back with Alex Sinclair and Scott Williams, of course, his typical collaborators. I think this looks fantastic. There's going to be a preview in Justice League Unlimited #1, which drops November 27th. So we do have that. That's pretty exciting. What I'm curious about is, you guys remember how we talked about the fact that Batman was going to be bi-weekly?
Yeah.
Well, now it's not. It's monthly again.
By
So,
erasure.
so how are they going to make that work? If they were producing enough comics to do it bi-weekly, and now it's going to come out monthly, was the Jim Lee Jeff Loeb takeover supposed to come sooner?
I'm pretty sure that was the scuttlebutt that they needed to push it back a little bit. So that's why they rescinded the biweekly announcement.
Well, I feel like Jim Lee needs time. I think I've heard of him as being a slower artist, and so maybe they announced that being like, oh yeah, for sure, he's hitting his deadlines, and now that they're coming up to a certain point, they mathed it out. They gamed that out. Actually, maybe we should give him a little bit more.
We don't say slow artist here, Marco. It's methodical, precise,
Right,
demure.
right, intentional.
Yeah, intentional.
Well, he's been working since the spring of this year, so
He's very intentional.
it should be interesting. I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to it.
And I gotta assume they probably want to have a lot banked
Yeah,
to avoid
yeah.
any kind of delays early on.
Yeah. Man, so many of you, so many comments. It's crazy. You guys are amazing. Ben Me says, I hope they do something to progress the Bat and the Cat's relationship in a more positive light. Well, if it's Jeff Loeb and it's Jim Lee, one thing you can bet your bottom dollar on is that Catwoman will be there. So they will have the opportunity to play with that relationship. We'll see if it matters.
She'll be looking good.
MP, it will be really interesting to see a pre-Morrison creative team on the main Batman title. Hopefully it leads us back to a more classic O'Neill style Batman going forward. That's a great point. This is a return to a creative team from literally 2 decades plus ago.
Which that's still in my head. I'm like, oh, the 80s.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm more than game for this. More than game. I say bring it on. Chip's run has been all right. It's been solid. Nothing to sneeze at, but I'm ready for it to be over, regardless of who is taking it. And so between Chip and the next like major creative shift, this is a nice stopgap, a nice return to an old era. That's exciting to me.
And C.W. Gordon, points it out here too. Also, y'all said it started in Batman 158, so no renumbering.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
No
that's
renumber.
exciting. That somehow in this day and age of comics is incredibly exciting.
Hmm. Spiral Storm says, makes me wonder if they'll be releasing Hush collections again. Well, they did announce that they would be releasing facsimile editions of the initial individual Hush comics. So that's pretty exciting for those of you who like the
Oh,
facsimiles.
is Hush one of the compact editions yet?
I think it's already out,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, it
Yeah, right.
exists
Okay.
already. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe they're getting good buzz too. I mean, the way that Joe Far Sector's been selling out, doing really well. Maybe they're just seeing success with some of this stuff, and they want to be able to continue to push on the things that work.
Joe Farsector? Who's he?
Joe, the
The,
Far Sector character.
the way that Marco's mind works, like you have to, if you're around Marco in person, you're gonna be amazed. I'm gonna say this. So we're going to the Energon like press panel thing where press was allowed to ask questions and shit. So we walk up and Marco's kind of leading the charge and he walks up to the woman who's taking the information. I'm glad you know what I'm talking about, Tyler. He walks up to the woman who's taking information and Marco says, "Hey, I'm Marco. We're looking to see if we can speak to Robert Kirkman and get some time maybe with Josh. And I'm looking for Shannon. Oh, and we're with the Comics Pals." And the lady's like, "Okay, yeah, that's what I needed to know."
Yeah.
You went backwards on that one completely.
He started from fucking Z.
To be
Oh
fair,
man.
that was yesterday. We were already fried by that point.
Oh
So
yeah.
synapse is not snapping as well.
It's playful. I met a guy. I was talking to a guy today whose name is Tyler. Just so happens to be Tyler.
Oh,
And he says to me, "Oh, what's your name?" And I say Tyler. But that's because I was gonna say, "Hey, Tyler, it's nice to meet you. I'm Sean." But he got ahead of me, and I just said his name anyway. So he looked at me like, "Wait, what the fuck?" And I was like, "No, I'm not actually Tyler."
I had a similar moment. Well, we don't need to go. We'll talk about the news. We'll talk about our other stuff
Yeah,
later.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, so March, Batman Hush 2. I think it's very exciting. We're gonna get a preview soon. I'm looking forward to see what the preview looks like.
I forget that March is spring technically.
Yeah.
it's coming up, and
I don't know.
four
My brain is
months,
not wired that way.
5 months.
Yeah, I guess that's sooner than I expected.
But before we go from this topic, can we call out some of the alternate titles for Hush?
Please.
My favorite here was Hush 2, Hush Harder. Uh,
I
got
think
another Hush, Don't Say a Word, and then Hush 2, The Unhushing.
I think it
Good
was
stuff.
I think it was C.W. Gordon. Pardon me if it's not, but he said shush.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like the one that was Hush 2, The Search for More Money. Those are really good.
That's the real byline.
I'm trying to find that one just to shout you out.
Exile says it's a bit of a hot take, but I think it's creatively bankrupt to go back to this creative team. I definitely disagree with that because I think that um, you know, you don't know that it's creatively bankrupt because you haven't read it, right? So you have no idea what they're gonna do. It could be vibrant, it could be full of new ideas, it could be really cool in a lot of ways. I don't think that just because they're going to a particular well that it's automatically creatively bankrupt. I also think that's a very heavy term to throw out there. These are creators at the end of the day, and understand that Jim Lee has no real financial incentive to do this. And frankly, neither does Jeff Loeb. Yes, they're going to be paid a nice bit of money, but Jim Lee could probably never do art again and still be a very rich man. and Jeff Loeb as well. So for them to want to come back to this project tells me they have something to say. And it's not like the Long Halloween sequel came out and sucked. It's actually been really good. So I say give them grace, give them time, you let them cook.
And MP brings up a good point here. DC's done well doing retro Batman stuff lately. Last Halloween, Robin Lives, World's Finest, Batman and Robin Year One. Like I think they're coming back to a point of comics and with creators who are of that era, and it feels like a renaissance. I was chatting about this um with Gavin,
Gavin who?
Gavin Gidry, and he's like, yeah, like the way that the books feel and the creators feel, there's a lot of excitement even internally for them. That it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think some people are having questions in the chat regarding issue length, and I think Cole is right here. 12 issues total, break in between at 6.
Yep.
Do we have? We don't know the length of the break, do we?
No,
No, I
not
doubt
yet.
they do then. If we don't know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
not yet. And we don't know what's going to fill that in.
better not be a saga break, that's for sure.
That would be insane. If he's been working since the spring of this year, Jim Lee, I have to imagine that a lot of the first arc, the first 6, is probably done. So,
Mm, yeah, hopefully.
Gore Vidal says the old timers have much to offer. Dude, I am a massive advocate of that. I have it. I think a lot of the younger fans of comics just have this like weird hate. Not hate, that might be a strong word, but like a real aversion to the veterans. And I just think that's really disrespectful, to be honest. Like, why? These are the people that paved the way, and they're still insanely talented. There are a lot of artists today who can't make Jim Lee's time, nor can they make anything close to Jim Lee's money. And it's not like he's a special person. Jim Lee, he's just super talented, and people bought his art as a result of that. It's nothing else, you
Continue to
know.
buy his art.
Yeah. A random Asian artist in the 80s ends up becoming one of the greatest, most successful artists of all time. That's hustle.
And if the 6 months lines up and it's just like consistent for March, that means August, and that means September we'll get whatever the medium thing is. September is that month DC likes to do fun stuff with.
Uh let's see. Silhouette. What's up, Silhouette? Says the real question is who will be the ongoing writer on Batman after this? Ewing? Hmm. I don't know, man. That's like probably a couple years into the future, right?
Yeah.
I don't know
If
what
I
I'm
had
having
to,
for lunch tomorrow.
huh?
Like I don't know what I'm having for lunch tomorrow, let alone like this is a whole year's worth of comics, which a lot could change between then.
Yeah. Yeah. Spiral Storm says, would you think with Didio being gone, it's helped DC to get where they're at now? Yes. Yes, I do. I think Didio did a lot of great stuff, but I also think that he kept DC in a certain place, and they really cut out a lot of the old guard from an editorial standpoint and an executive standpoint, and they brought in fresher faces. They brought in Marie Javins, who's done a lot of great stuff. Speaking of the great stuff that they have done, let's move forward and let's talk about Vertigo, the return of Vertigo. That's another major, major initiative that DC is pulling out. They have brought back the Vertigo line. That's something that we actually heard echoes of. And if I recall correctly, somebody asked me if I thought they'd bring Vertigo back, and I said no. So the fact that that is happening is really exciting, although there are questions. So, first of all, DC confirmed that we already have the first Vertigo title. We are already reading it. It is Nice House by the Sea.
And Night's House on the
Oh,
Lake is retroactively also
Yep.
Vertigo.
what?
Yep.
This I didn't hear.
Mhm. So those are both now considered Vertigo titles. DC Black Label is not going away. Both of those publishing initiatives will continue and will be active simultaneously. My guess, this is not a fact, my guess is that Black Label that'll be the place where they can do out of continuity, sort of more mature, maybe darker stories with superheroes, while Vertigo will be the place where they can do their almost like indie-rific comics
Mm.
still under the DC banner.
That's confirmed actually. Chris
There you go.
Conroy is the editor of both Black Label and Vertigo, which he even called himself on Twitter. He a madman for doing that. But he said, yeah, exactly. Black Label will be superheroes. Vertigo is their indie imprint at this point,
Okay. Yeah.
or
Yes.
creator owned. Sorry, I can't say indie. It's DC, but yeah.
I think that's really exciting. I think that the big two should have a space for this. There's really no reason not to. There's literally no reason that I can think of other than the idea that people who want DC Comics wouldn't buy this, but it says Vertigo. So if you're typically looking to buy superhero books, you can just look past the Vertigo stuff. But those of us who love creator owned, those of us who love indie, we look at the Vertigo namesake, and we say that has value.
Yeah. 100%. That I feel like is the biggest boon to this is there's such a cachet with Vertigo. There's legacy there. When somebody goes, "Oh, this book was published under Vertigo," I have an idea of what that might be, who the creators might be, and the flavor that I'm gonna get. There's an expectation that comes with that, and it's an expectation of quality as well. And so this is a home run of an announcement. I Similarly, Sean was worried that we would never get this back, right? Like they committed to Vertigo being away. It morphed into whatever the Black Label stuff was going to be. But I think this is a good step in the right direction, amongst a whole marching for the company, right? Like they've been making the right decisions with every announcement that they've been making from a creative standpoint and with Vertigo from a business standpoint.
Chris Stewart says, "Hey guys, love from Ireland, dude. That's awesome. Love all the way from New York, right back to you, buddy.
Let me know
That's
where
cool.
in Ireland too. Actually, curious.
Why
Yes,
are you
sir.
trying to plan a trip?
Good
No,
morning.
I have family.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, curious to see where.
Me too. I'm Irish.
Do you know where?
Hell no.
Okay.
That's just some shit I get to say because it's true, but I have no idea what my ancestry is.
I was gonna make a black Irish joke, but
Go ahead.
no, that's it.
Oh, all right. Uh, all right. Fair enough. Brian Harry says, "Is Vertigo's response a return? Or sorry, is Vertigo's return a response to Ghost Machine?" And just before that, Max, Guardian of Oa, who is one of our newest patrons, thank you so much, Max, said they should have promised Jeff Johns keys to the kingdom and let him start Vertigo. The reason why I paired those up. So, little known lore for you. Jeff Johns was originally doing, before Ghost Machine, was originally doing something called the Killing Zone. I don't know how many of you guys know or remember that, but that was going to be the creator owned imprint that Jeff Johns was going to have, and it was tethered to DC. And it went nowhere. They never released any comics. And then he went over to Image and started doing the Geiger thing over there with Gary Frank. And of course, that all exploded into Ghost Machine. So there is a potential alternate reality where Killing Zone is a part of Vertigo. And that the Ghost Machine never exists in that world. But that didn't come to pass. Different era for DC. Owen Harrison says, "Do you think Marvel should bring back Max?" Well, I was thinking Max is a great one, but I was also thinking about
Icon was
it
it?
was Icon,
Yeah.
yes. And Icon was for their top tier creators who they didn't want to lose to creator owned, who would do stuff in house. My favorite Max or Icon series is Scarlet by Bendis and Malieve. That was a really strong series.
Oh, Powers was under that for a hot second.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
Wasn't Empress on there too? It was Mark Millar and Stuart Immonen.
No?
No,
No,
did it
that
get
was
shifted?
Image.
Okay.
Mm.
Silhouette. I mean, what are you gonna do? It never came out, so Tristan Maldonado says, I've never read anything by Vertigo before, but I'm very curious what comes from this. Any Vertigo recommendations?
Yeah, I listed off a couple just off the bat. Top of the head, Preacher, Why the Last Man, DMZ, I think 100 Bullets. You can go back to some of the stuff where they first started. You have Sandman, you have Swamp Thing, man, anything in it and everything that's good. Doom Patrol, all that stuff started there, and then the books that I listed off earlier were that new iteration of creator owned kind of comics. So there's a lot to explore within that realm.
The ones that jump out to me are like Day Tripper,
Oh yeah,
Preacher. There's honestly, you see a Vertigo spine, it's a pretty safe bet that you're probably gonna have a good book there.
yep,
It's a real
high
seal of
chance.
quality.
Hey, Matt Man Begins. That's Matt Sumo, the writer behind the Bardic Verses. It was great to run into you, brother, this weekend at Comic-Con. We were lucky enough to get to chill with Matt and Pete Collins for a few minutes. Mutually, we were all busy, but we were able to hang out for a few minutes, and it was so cool to see Pete after he did the LCS Sheriff design. Which, if you guys haven't seen it, you gotta join the Discord and see it. Um, and maybe never mind. But yeah, it was great running into you, Matt, and thank you for the love, brother. What's up, Tyler? Why the face?
I thought I had the image ready for that.
Oh.
I have it on the 4-man thing, but yeah.
It's all good. Lol Hype Pop says, you guys heard the fan arguing with ASM editor Nick Lowe? It was a shit show. Do tell.
I have the scoop on that one.
Share.
So it was during the Spider-Man panel, Spider-Man and Friends, I believe it was. There's Q&A. The first person that comes up with the Q&A pretty much says, hey, I'll give the gist. I don't remember. I wasn't there to hear exactly what it was, but my friend was, and he kind of gave me the secondhand scoop. And then Twitter and Bleeding Cool confirmed it. Essentially calling Nick Lowe a misogynist for killing off Miss Marvel. And Nick Lowe pretty much goes and says, well, she was integral to the story, so it was a big beat. And the fan was like, no, she was in 10 pages. Like, he had receipts. And then pretty much would not leave the Q&A. And then pretty much kept telling them, why didn't you just kill a male character if you're so concerned with that? And filibustered. And I heard it was very awkward.
Yes. Fans being very chill as usual.
We were talking, me and Sean were talking, I don't remember what panel it was, but we were like, man, I forget what panel, but we were saying we love Q&As at Comic-Con panels because they're either fun or they're so cringe and awkward sometimes that it's just, I thrive on it. I love it. It fuels me.
Yeah, I think that's horse shit, man. There's no need to do that. And I also think to say that it's misogynist is just bizarre. That's bizarre. Miss Marvel wasn't killed because they wanted to kill a woman. She was killed for business. She was killed because they wanted to make her a mutant and level her up. I don't understand how you know the amount of pages that she was in, which means you were that dedicated to it to know that fact, but then you don't understand the reasoning behind that decision.
And Nick Lowe's not going to say that.
Yeah.
He can't say it's a bigger decision because of the MCU. He can't. That's a soundbite that will be on every website out there. So it's a bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. I think if there's actual misogyny in comics and you want to call it out, sure. Like the Dan Didio thing that people were, during New 52. Whole new launch, and there's no men on the panel. That I
No
think,
men?
Or sorry, the other.
No
the other
men.
It was only men.
Inverse. Con brain. Like I think that seems like a fair thing to do, but this is like you're hitching your horse to the wrong carriage. I think
It's a stretch, big stretch.
Yeah, and I also think, even if you were right in that scenario, which I don't think the individual was, there's certainly a way to do it. And I love this comment from Atomic Hound who says, There's no need to be rude, especially at a celebration of an art form that everybody there loves.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Like there certainly is space for critique or whatever, but like you're trying to have your moment right now. It feels more like that than I mean misogyny. That's just an odd point. But yeah, super excited for Vertigo's return. I think this is a brilliant move on DC's part. DC has been making what feels like every right decision. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I literally was talking to Gavin Guidry separately as well, and I was like, "What happened to DC? Why are they making actually the right calls now? Like, it doesn't seem like there's too much change in terms of the higher ups. Like, Javens has been there for a couple years now, and but just something's shifted there, and I can't put my finger on it. It's within the last year. And it's like,
I
oh, these are just the obvious choices, like the obvious moves that make sense. And I'm hyped. I'm a Marvel guy through and through. I'm so much more hyped for DC right now than I am for Marvel.
I think that we're feeling the effects of decisions made a couple years ago. Like a lot of these books, a lot of these initiatives happen over the course of time, and so for for us to start to feel all of it and it all line up means that like this Vertigo decision, right, has been happening probably for a while to bring back to have to resurrect the business, probably to have to make the trade dressing to integrate with the new logo. The new logo probably took some time because you needed to maybe re-register it or do whatever you have to do with it. Getting these original creators to the absolute stuff, like all of this took planning, and I think it's lining up now because there's forward thinking involved. There is long term thinking, and it's coming from DC. And now is when all of that stuff starts.
Yeah, so this isn't new. This is stuff that's been in the planning for a long time. We already know that Absolute's been in the workings for about 5 years, from when Scott first conceived of it. And Dan Didio leaving. Think about what happened. Think about what happened when Dan Didio left. So he left in 2020 when he was released. After Dan Didio was released, they then released a whole bunch of their editorial staff. Okay. And then all throughout 2021 and even some of 22, we saw things we clearly knew were a part of the plan for 5G happening in the comics. And it took them years to finish out all of those things that they had been working on. Dawn of DC was the first thing we got to see that was conceived of by the newer crop. And even within that, there were still old ideas. So, really, I look at All In and everything that's happening within the last few months and what's coming within the next year as the first sign of the new editorial and creative efforts at DC 4+ years in the making.
And it does seem to be on all cylinders, especially once the Vertigo thing was announced. It's like, oh, everything is lining up here. This is a clear cut decision.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really exciting. This is an exciting time to be a fan of DC Comics. We say it a lot. I say DC up. DC fans stand up. This is your time. DC fans have eaten shit for a lot of years. Like it sucks, but it's true. I mean, I go back to like 2016, 2018. They had a run, and then it was just garbage. And now DC is doing some of the best stuff they've done in 20 years. Like
100%.
we were lucky enough. Is this next up? Sorry, I had to put the show together in a pinch. It's not next up, but we'll talk about it a little more. But we got to go to the DC All In panel or whatever, and the excitement in the room was insane. It was insane.
We were
Hype.
lucky to even get in. That line had to get cut twice.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a messy line situation, but thankfully we were able to get standing room, and then eventually we got seats while we were in there. But it was literally as packed as possible.
Press is the only reason we were able
Yeah,
to be inside
yeah.
that room.
Yeah. 100%. I want to address this question real quick. Chris Stewart, I bought my first comic this summer and had been exclusively reading the Ultimate line from Marvel. Absolute Batman was my first ever DC comic, and it was a level above and beyond. So hyped for Wonder Woman. Hey man, welcome to the fold. I think you're coming into DC at the perfect time. All In is starting. Justice League Unlimited. You're gonna have all of the absolute books that are coming out. We'll get to some of the announcements that have been basically called out, but this is incredible, impeccable timing. So welcome.
And get hyped for Absolute Wonder Woman for sure.
Oh yes,
We
dude,
Marco and Sean got to talk to Hayden Sherman, which will be up eventually.
real
So
good.
we'll have some news on that.
Dude, oh my God. The interviews we have coming. Oh,
Dude, it didn't feel like a lot, and then I'm going through it. I'm like, oh no, we did good.
Did a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sure did. We'll talk more about that a little later, but we had a great run of it. Um, Speaking of DC announcements, though, another one that Rich Johnson nailed with a bullet was the announcement of James Gunn having some involvement in a comic book, and that is happening. So James Gunn is, and it's a very specific language that they used. It's very specific language, but James Gunn will be a story consultant on a 5-issue mini that we're going to be getting called Peacemaker Presents the Vigilante slash Eagly double feature, which is coming from Tim Seeley and Mitch Gerrits.
Okay.
They're doing the Vigilante portion, and then Rex Ogle and Matteo Lolly on the Eagly portion. That is crazy because Mitch Gerrits is a big gun, but he's a big gun that doesn't really like to do a lot of the core DC stuff. So I know they threw him a bag to do this book.
Is this even core DC? This is essentially a tie-in to the. Is it a tie-in to movie universe?
I don't know that it. I don't. Well, okay. So the series ties right into the show as well as it is set between Peacemaker seasons
Okay.
1 and 2. Okay, but normally we're used to Mitch doing stuff like, you
Eisner
know,
bait.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mr. B.
And this ain't that.
And Tim Seeley, like I'm a Tim Seeley fan. I actually really like Tim Seeley, but Tim Seeley's ability to be co-writer or at least be able to work within another writer's parameters is probably unmatched right now in comics. The kind of people he's worked with. You know, he worked with Tony Fleeks on Local Man, which was really praised. So seeing Tim Seeley's name on this was pretty exciting.
That one just got I got canceled, right? Or ended.
It just
I
ended.
think on it.
Yeah.
It just ended. Yeah.
Can I just say thank you to 100 plus of you that are hanging out with us right now? That is crazy for a Sunday night show that was almost impromptu. That's huge. Make sure you hit the like button, be subscribed if you're not. We appreciate you guys showing out for us.
Yeah, the Mets game is on right now too, so we got counter
Hey
programming.
yo.
So let's see. In the vigilante story, Adrian heads to Peacemaker's house to hang out, but finds that Chris and Eagly are gone. He assumes the worst, thinking they've been taken. So he suits up and starts with his local criminal community to figure out where they are. And there will likely be quite a bit of bloodshed as he looks for answers. Making this all the more ironic is that Chris and Eagly are not captured at all, but on vacation in Alaska, with Chris simply forgetting to ask Adrian along. Okay.
Silly.
Did you guys
Goofy.
watch Peacemaker?
Yeah.
I know
The
Sean
first
did, yeah.
season.
Okay. Yeah. Vigilante is probably the standout of that show outside of Peacemaker
Eagly.
himself and
Oh.
and Eagly, yeah, and the intro dance. But Vigilante is a lot of fun. It's not really much like the comic book Vigilante. It's kind of a real exaggerated version of him, but I think it's fun. And I'm looking at this Mitch Jared's interior art, and he ain't missing. This is good stuff, and it looks like it will be just as violent as the show is.
Yeah. This does nothing for me. This is a book that I will skip 100%. If James Gunn was writing it, that would be a huge, get and a huge reason to read it. But without his name attached, I'm not really that interested in this universe. The first season was good. It was great. But I don't think that was like it wasn't because it was Peacemaker. It was because it was really fun and creative and interesting. And that to me comes from James Gunn and the creatives that he surrounded himself with to do the show. This I could do without.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they use, uh, got Peacemaker Presents, and then it's the story consulting by James Gunn. Like you want to attach his name, but you don't want to have him do the book. You know, it's like a producer type credit, which all right, I get it, I respect it, but because it isn't him, like I'd be more similarly more interested in him doing this. I do agree though, the art here, clean. He's doing some real good action sequences that are look to be a lot of fun. Um, I might check this one out. I'm more interested in seeing the art than I am maybe reading the story.
Jared's is enough for me. I'm gonna check it out.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, the page alone, I think there's some really fun stuff here. So I don't know if I'm excited for this, but it will be on my pull list.
Quite a few of you just joined our Discord. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for joining us and committing to hanging out with us in the future. If you've not joined our Discord, it's like completely free. There's no cost associated with it at all. You just get to hang out, talk comics. It's a fun time. Yeah. So yeah, Silhouette says James Gunn says this isn't connected to the DCU. It's a story that stands on its own. So you're saying it's not connected to the DCU, and by the DCU you mean the film and television universe? Because the article I'm pulling from comic.com says it ties into the show as it's set between season 1 and 2. So I don't know.
Flo Dameron has a good point here. Tim Seeley was at Troma back when James Gunn was there. The only other person that could do this justice is Kyle Starks, who I believe was there as well.
Oh man. See, if Kyle Starks was on this, I would have to buy it because I love Kyle Starks.
Who's to know? Who's to say this is not a dam opening up, of tie-in books?
That sounds awful.
Maybe for you, but for the normie who might be just movies kind of guy, maybe not into the comics, that could be great.
Hasn't worked yet, but who knows? Max with the 5 spot. Thank you so much, Max, for the double dip. Triple dip because you're a channel member. That's a beautiful thing, buddy. The pals are back from NYCC. Yeah, the Penguin episode can wait. Do you guys ever go to C2E2? I'm thinking I'll go next year since it's close to me. I would love to go, man, but I haven't been yet.
Max, I had a ticket to C2E2. I was ready to go for the show, and I got divorced. So don't get divorced. Or don't get married.
No.
I don't know.
Dude, you
Sharp
had
left
one of
turn.
the lines. Sorry, Marco, go ahead.
I just said sharp turn. That was a
You had one of the lines of the con for me when you said you were in your new game plus. That shit was funny, bro.
Yeah, I already did the wedding. I'm good.
I love it. Oh my goodness. There was a comment okay, yeah. CW Gordon says if this means we'll get shout outs / ads for comics in the movies, I'm all for this. Well, look, that I agree with. If it's gonna be a net positive on the comic side of things, then I'm not gonna argue with it, even if it's not for me. If you're telling me that this will lead to an uptick in, the comics being spotlit across the DCU, I'm game for that. Zach G. Whoa, Zach G with the $49.99 bomb. Zach, that is incredible. Thank you so much, Zach. Zach dropping $49.99 and says, just wanted to say, keep up the great work, guys. Spreading positivity through the community is a breath of fresh air on YouTube. Thank you, buddy.
thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate that.
That's called a Zach attack there. Once you get hit with that bomb.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate
Can
it.
I also say that Zach's incredibly generous super chat would actually not have even paid for Marco and I's lunch from the food truck?
Yo, it's craziness out here.
Tyler, I think you're muted.
Oh, I was saying it looked good at least. Marco had those pesto fries.
Yeah, the Parmesan.
Yeah.
Oh, it was very good. It was very good. But was it worth what we paid?
No.
Doesn't matter
No.
if it's worth it. It's your only option, Sean.
It's
you want
either
to
that
leave.
or you walk out and you travel because you're deep on the west end of the island, and there's not a lot there outside of delis.
The trick is go to the press room. They had free sandwiches.
So it was.
James Gunn tweeted Yeah, that was me. Sorry, I deleted the post from Threads and changed the text in IG. Someone posted the announcement for me yesterday while I was doing press for Comic-Con, and it was intimated that books were in DCU continuity. They are amazing and fun books by wonderfully talented folks, but they are not in DCU continuity. Sorry. Okay, thank you, Silhouette, for that bit of information. But I must say that that is very, very silly. And it's sort of a problem. Like, the messaging surrounding the DCU has just been so, kind of funky, right? Like Peacemaker season 1 isn't canon, but season 2 is. What?
There was a, and then James Gunn even said like there will be stuff from the previous like universe that is canon in DCU, but we will address that as it comes up. If we state
Right.
it, then it's canon. And then I saw somebody tweet, and I wish I could credit the tweet. It was like, it's essentially New 52 reboot. Welcome back. Like, yeah, actually, yeah.
Shout out to Spyro Storm, coming back as a VI pal. Says all the super chat love tonight. Love it.
Man,
Love you, bud. Thank you so
You
much.
can't be putting that Elizabeth Olsen, Wanda Halloween costume icon on there too. Come on.
I'll tell you what, seeing these super chats, it really means a lot. And you know what it does? It takes every super chat takes more pain away from my feet. That's what it does. It helps me forget that for the last 4 days I have been on my steppers from sunrise to sunset. And it's all for you guys.
I took a salt bath after I got back from the con. Recommend a salt bath.
You're smart.
Got foot massage.
You guys know I got in and I had to immediately get the show together so we could go live.
You've been running on your toes all day today.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's right. Yeah, he pulled up today, immediately went into it.
Gotta do it. Gotta do it. Atomic Hound says now Sean can replace his pepper steak variant of Absolute Batman #1. Well, you know what, buddy? You know what?
Oh, you gonna show it?
I'm gonna show it. I'm gonna show it. Might as well. We're talking DC, so it's not too out of school.
Hey, Atomic Hound, don't go yet. Hold on, hold on.
I had to do this. I had to do it because there was no damn way that I was not going to have a copy of Absolute Batman #1 cover A. But I went above and beyond. I went all in because if you take a look at this bad boy,
Oh, you
it
did
is
do it.
signed by the man. And let me tell you something. I went up while Scott was signing. Marco and I did. Long line, very long line. Scott was going to be busy.
Was this today?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I handed my copy to Scott's assistant and handler, and he just he did a cool move. He just Scott's there signing, talking to fans. He just slipped my copy right in front of Scott's face. And Scott picked up his pen. He picked up his pen, and without even really looking at it, certainly didn't look at me. I've interacted with him many times. It's totally fine. But he just did the signature and passed it back. And then his handler just handed it to me like, here you go, bud. And that's all it took. It was a beautiful thing.
Brain off. It's just all motor skill at that point.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was funny because he was in the middle of signing others, right? So he actually thought it was the person who was there in front. So he just kind of pushed it up a little bit, and then his assistant had to come in and be like, no, wait, that's over here.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Glad to have it. Okay. So let's keep things rolling. We talked about Peacemaker. Let's get into cool. Let's get into Justice League, the Atom Project. So this was one of the books that DC pushed an announcement out for overnight. It was kind of weird.
It seemed
But
like
they
everyone,
put-
all the creators were confused about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a bizarre way to push that out because our Discord was talking about these things before we even got to the con. I'm like, what the hell is this? But this was one of the books that was announced, the Atom Project, and it's essentially a book that is going to showcase characters like the Atom, or the Atoms, I should say, Ray Palmer and Ryan Choi, and then also Captain Atom, as they try to get everyone's superpowers back post Absolute Power, because at the end of Absolute Power, superpowers went wonky. So they went to people who weren't supposed to have them. Some people who are supposed to have powers have different ones, or they have no powers. So it's a very interesting situation that the superheroes are in. And so we have John Ridley, Ryan Perot, and Mike Perkins is the creative team.
That's it.
That's a real strong team.
Perkins on some of this art, man. Really excited to see that. The variants look real cool too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this kind of like makes sense. Like I never thought like the atoms, like and then Captain Atom also being an atom in a way. Like sure, the word is there, but as a trio, I'm kind of curious to see where that goes because honestly, I haven't read a Captain Atom book I've liked or an Atom book I've liked. So maybe having both of them there or all three will be a way to kind of strengthen the book.
For me, the kicker here is it maybe it deals with some Swamp Thing stuff because Justice League Unlimited #3, the solicit here says that will Superman, Wonder Woman, and the others have to sacrifice the life of Swamp Thing? For what? Give it to me. Yes. Well, don't sacrifice my boy, but what's this about?
They're killing him off to send him back to Vertigo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. That's it. Yeah, he's done in the DC universe actually, and then all of a sudden he just like resurrects. He comes out as a little flower or some shit.
Dex Baker. Dex Baker with the 5 spot. Dex, very active in the comment section of the videos that we've been dropping. You guys that are loyalists to the channel know we've been all in all month long, dropping videos, being live with you every day. And Dex is very active in the comments. He says, I'll have to catch this from the beginning later. And a salute right back to you, brother, man. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that support. I I don't give a care about any of these characters, but I did read a Captain Atom New 52 series while we were doing the deep dive, and that was awesome. So
Interesting. I remember that not having buzz when it came out, but I've heard like almost like retrospectively everyone talks about it as like, oh yeah, I remember Captain Atom. I'm like, no, I don't. I didn't want to read that.
Who's on that?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was good. If somebody's looking for a Captain Atom story to read prior to this, which launches in January 1st, actually, that would be a good book to read. This is cool, you know. I will check this out on the strength of their creative team.
Sure. Yeah. We'll see where it goes from there.
And some new Atom costumes, I think designed by Dan Mora.
Oh.
So,
Oh, all right. Well, the Captain Atom one looks fine. I don't know
well,
what
his
the.
is kind of classic, but it's
Yeah.
the Atoms. I
Gotcha.
have some new ones.
I like the fact that they paired John Ridley with another writer, because John Ridley is notoriously slow. He's got a lot of irons in the fire, and for whatever reason, his books always, really take a lot of time to come out. So pairing him with somebody else, especially Ryan Perot, who's used to kind of working, he did like the Power Ranger stuff. I'm sure this ship will arrive on time. So that's a good pairing. I like that.
Yeah. 100%.
I don't think I've read a John Ridley book that I've stuck with. Have you read anything you've liked by him, Sean?
I mean, I've read stuff I like by him, but I haven't finished anything by him.
Yeah, I'm not sure he did.
Not wrong.
That's my issue with the John Ridley books.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. It's frustrating. Okay. Now this announcement was hype. This was hype. Aquaman.
Ooh, hell yeah.
Got me wet.
It's dirty. So this was actually something that we knew about in advance. I can't say who said it. We won't do that. But someone told us that this was coming. And oh, whoa, my computer lagged. And so when it was announced, it wasn't a surprise. But what was cool was the incredible creative team that they put together for this. So Jeremy Adams and John Timms are going to be spearheading a new era for Aquaman. We were present during the panel where they made this announcement for the public. And they talked a lot about how now, post Absolute Power, Aquaman has a bit of a new power set where he's able to do water constructs, I think they said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they even said it's more like he has a bit of Mara's aquakinesis. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. And that, we know about the green, right? Swamp Thing generally deals with the green. We know about the red, and now we're getting into the blue.
That was cool, man. That as a concept is really interesting. It's kind of been played in the past, but it was called the Parliament of Vapors, and there's this whole other sort of situation that goes on with that. So I don't know to what degree they're pulling from that stuff that is back in like the late 80s, early 90s of Swamp Thing, if at all, right? But the fact that it's getting compared to that, I think, is interesting because I think it means that it takes a more mystical angle, and I think Aquaman plays really well when you include some magic, when you include a bit of that mysticism, because the ocean is vast, and I think you can play a lot into that.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this. I caught up with Jeremy Adams' Green Lantern. I read the newest All In issue. It's killer, dude. And we don't have a slide for it here, but the discussion of what he's doing with that book going forward is really interesting. So seeing him play with Aquaman specifically is like, oh hell yeah! He mentioned like they're gonna see a lot of new undersea characters, which that's why I read Aquaman. I love if you show me a crab dude, I'm in. You show me a squid man, I'm also in.
Are you all in?
I'm all in, especially if you give me a mermaid,
Hey,
which they are.
They're going to give you that.
They are. There's art for it.
and sorry, I'm clarify something. It was Parliament of Waves, not Vapors. Vapors was of air.
Got it. Yeah, it makes sense.
Reaper XC says Adam's Aquaman was the most exciting announcement for me. Well, it's exciting for me to see you in our live chat because you're one of those comment warriors. So it's cool to see you commenting on something we're currently doing.
You're going through the archives too, Reaper XC. Nice to see you in the chat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. This was really hype. I'm not a super big fan of Aquaman. The only Aquaman run I've actually read is the Jeff Johns one, which was fantastic. Jeremy Adams is just like walking in the footsteps of Jeff Johns, and I mean that affectionately. He did the Flash, he did Green Lantern, he's doing Green Lantern and killing it, and he's going to be doing Aquaman. That was the same trajectory, if I remember correctly, that Johns had. Or maybe it was Lantern then Flash, but either way, it's those same books.
Yeah, touching the big characters, the big hitters.
Justice League coming up, I guess.
Imagine.
The stars rising. The stars rising.
Yeah.
And you guys stay tuned because all week long, we have interviews with top creators. We were able to interview Jeremy Adams. That's going to be dropping. We spoke to Hayden Sherman. That's going to be dropping. We got to speak to them about Absolute Wonder Woman. We've got big creators coming up. It was super cool to get to speak to Jeremy because you guys always say, hey, when are you having Jeremy Adams on the channel? Well, it's happening tomorrow. It's happening tomorrow.
He doubted you guys too. I was listening to that interview. He's like, "There's no way. There's no way." Being too humble.
Yeah, he didn't believe me. But I didn't lie. I wouldn't lie on you guys. I would never do that. Yeah, so this is an exciting title. I'm very much looking forward to this. Now, I think the most exciting part of the panel was when they started talking about Absolute.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. So the announcement of Absolute Martian Manhunter was not much of a surprise to those of us who are initiated, shall we say, those of us who are tapped in. We knew about this already. We knew that Dennis Camp was going to be the writer. That was something that was spoiled by Rich Johnston a while ago. But Javier Rodriguez being the artist behind this book is super exciting. And the moment that popped the crowd was when they revealed the Martian Manhunter designs,
Yeah.
and one of them was literally done with Play-Doh.
Yeah, that was so cool. When they said that, I'm just like, oh yeah, and the way that they informed us of how this was gonna look like from the artist perspective was they've sent in a picture of a non-brand Play-Doh.
Non-denominational playing dough. Yes.
Right, exactly, yeah.
I love Javier Rodriguez, and I've always loved Javier Rodriguez. Um, when he's on a book, that's like a destination book for me. And then it's like from like an art standpoint, and then you'd be like, all right, it's a destination book for you now, a new Dennis Camp book. It's a destination location for me, Absolute Comics. It's not a destination, Martian Manhunter. But let's see if we can make that a destination for me, and we'll hit all four corners. But I was this was exciting, and it's radically different.
Yeah, they explained the concept, and it's very different. And it was so cool to listen to Dennis talk about what this was going to be. I can't wait to have him on the channel. He's such a very brilliant,
Yeah,
interesting mind. He talked about the fact that, Martian Manhunter isn't actually a Martian. This is a situation where a human being, John Johns or John Jones, whatever his name is having a mental connection with an alien being that has essentially invaded his mind. And the only language that it has to describe itself, or that John has to understand it as a concept, is Martian.
That blew me, but brain blast, dude. You're on mute, Tyler.
it almost seems like Negative Man from Doom Patrol and the symbiotic nature of it. That
Yeah,
could be parasitic, and trying to balance between whether this is symbiotic or parasitic is something that I could see being a real trippy take on it.
100%. Um, I think it's Mob Psycho, but it's a manga and it felt similar to kind of like this vibe of being infected by another creature and trying to live through what that experience is.
And Dennis took to X Twitter yesterday to explain a whole bunch of stuff too. One thing jumped out to me though that was interesting was I guess Scott had approached him about this book, and they had talked like for 3 hours about not the book, but just like life and goals and stuff for comics. And then Scott was like, "All right, you want to pick one?" And Dennis said you just couldn't pick the core five, so he picked Martian Manhunter. But also was like, we only have four right now. Who's the fifth that's taken?
Mm,
Well, we've got Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash,
Oh,
Green
Green
Lantern.
Green Lantern. Yeah, yeah, okay, yep.
yeah, cool. Oh,
Um,
sorry, Parasite was the thing I was thinking of. Damn, dude, con brain is real.
Triple O says, "Will Dennis be off Ultimates then?" No, nope. He's able to do both, which is very exciting because Ultimates is to me is the best comic in the
And
world.
he's in the two hottest imprints right now, and we'll see when Martian Manhunter comes out. But he could be writing the two hottest books in the two hottest imprints.
Yeah, dude, 100%.
It's entirely possible. The man's a brilliant genius. We'll have him on here.
Yeah, he was pretty receptive about that idea. So
Hmm.
Izzy's issue says sounds Lovecraftian. I could see that. I could see it being that kind of high concept, and for a writer like Dennis, I think they could probably handle that well.
and what I like about this the pitch that Dennis talked about with this is that like Absolute Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman there are changes, but it seems like almost just a slight skewing that then causes a domino effect. Whereas this feels like just a complete reimagining. And I like how wildly different it feels because Martian Manhunter is one of those characters where like he's popular in iconography and like the base of who he is, but like not really as a solo character.
Mm.
So just go wild, do something weird, have fun.
One of the things that I was thinking about uh, on the back of the all of these DC announcements was comparing it to the reception and the reaction we were getting from stuff like From the Ashes. There was a plethora of books that got announced, and they were teased out here and there, but it this feels different, you know, like these as maybe a similar number of books being announced that are brand new across both Absolute as well as the All In initiative, but there's such a fervor attached to them, and I think it's in the presentation, I think it's in the creative team, and I think it's in what feels like longer the wish to want to have longer form storytelling within comics, whereas the From the Ashes announcements, all the X books that got announced were cool, didn't have the maybe creative cachet with some of them, and also felt like they were cash grabs isn't the right word, but they weren't of things that felt like they wanted to commit to. This feels like commitment.
For me, I think there's a clear distinction. I think X-Men from the Ashes was almost like, with Krakoa being so wildly different for X-Men at the time, it's just a return to a status quo. In some ways, we're
Mm.
seeing it's a little different with a lot more solo stuff, so there is a bit of a change. But this feels like a discarding of the status quo. It's a complete re understanding of what the status quo is. And I like how different it is. I've been reading comics for most of my life at this point. So I want something wildly different like this, and put a great creative team on it. Yeah, this is exactly what I want.
One of the things that kept coming up in my conversations with the creators who were a part of this initiative was the idea that this was a big two corporate comics initiative that feels creator driven. It feels like the kind of stuff that you could only do at Image or Boom or Dark Horse. It feels like even the creators that they chose, like think about these names. Yeah, Dennis Camp is doing Ultimates, but prior to that, what was he known for? 20th Century Men, right? A big, bold comic outside the big two. Hayden Sherman, they're known for their, indie stuff. They're not known for big two work, not at all. So they kind of went outside the box. And not only did they go outside the box to find these people, but they're letting them do what they would do if these characters were theirs. And I don't think there's a better example of that than what we know about Absolute Green Lantern. So uh at the panel, Al Ewing was present, which was awesome. That was so cool. We got to meet him in person. I actually got to interview him, and that'll be up on the channel.
Hearing his voice sends me in another dimension. It just hits a note, and it's just like, whoa, all right.
It's the voice of God.
It
Al
literally
Ewing's
is,
voice
yeah.
is the voice of God.
Him and Percy, deep.
But I just feel like for Percy, it's like a voice actory type of voice,
Yeah.
and it's great. I love it. But like Al Ewing is just that's just who he is. He's just got this big voice.
Hearing the audio from your interview was like the closest I can imagine to getting like telepathic voices in my head. Like to be
Dude,
my X-Men is like, whoa, okay, hold on.
you know those fucking boom panels in Dark Side War?
Yeah.
That's Al Ewing when he talks. It's
Yep.
just this big
Yeah.
boom that shocks you. But he talked about Absolute Green Lantern. And he talked about how nobody knows what the Green Lantern is. That works meta and it works in the comic because we, the outside world, we don't know what it is. He was very specific. He said, forget what you think you know about Green Lantern. Don't carry over your mainline thoughts into Absolute because they don't apply. They showed us a page that was a massive, like the Green Lantern symbol, a massive Green Lantern symbol made physical that dropped in a town, some town. And somehow that event is going to pull Sojourner, who is the main character confirmed, but also Hal Jordan, John Stewart, and a very interesting cast of supporting characters that Al wasn't really trying to get into. But it's going to pull them all into its vortex, and we're going to see what the absolute Green Lantern really is. But there are no rings. He did say that. There are no rings.
It feels very Lindelof,
Huh.
you know? like a leftovers kind of mystery. We don't really know. Maybe a bit of a lost kind of feel. Not mystery box quite. Not in a J.J. Abrams mystery box, but there is this heady nature that I feel to it. Once you see like, oh, literally the Green Lantern logo, the lantern has a physical manifestation in this and caused a like a mini disaster zone for this city. Man, and then knowing Al's on it. Yeah, I get more and more hyped for it. Seeing the art for this really got me excited.
Yes, style so serious. What is up on the screen right now is the cover that was released and shown at the panel, and it's awesome. You can see, obviously, in the center we have Joe Moline, but to her top left we have Hal, and to her bottom right we have John Stewart. And we know at least we know that John is older. Al talked about how this version of John Stewart's a little older. He's in his 40s or pushing 40, and so he's going to be one of the sort of primary supporting characters. And his goal wasn't to alienate us by not including the other lanterns, so we will see them, but the story is bigger than any individual lantern, or I shouldn't even say lantern. It's bigger than it's bigger than any individual character. We don't know who, like who else will be a Green Lantern, or if it's a thing that more than one person can be.
It's interesting that they're playing into that aspect of not having the ring because that was a part of Joe and in the initial series, and so it's cool that that's seen some continuity. But I wonder how that's going to affect the other character, and that it's part of the mystery, right?
The art has a ring though, is what I'm confused about.
Yeah,
The cover distinctly has a ring, so I don't know if it's just not a physical ring, is what he's talking about, and it's more of an energy internal manifestation.
and also on her chest, you see like this, like almost talisman looking thing. It reminds me of Digimon when they have the crests.
Hell yeah, Digimon reference. I love that.
And yeah, Kazbot says I heard Guy is also in the book. That was announced as well. Guy is also around. I
That's
don't know
right.
to what extent, but he's there.
Hmm. Uh, yeah, very exciting stuff. We don't know too much, but that is the way Al prefers it. He talked about how he would really rather us find out when we read the book, and that the less we know, the better. But the one thing he did say that I thought was interesting is that this is sort of it'll have like a horror bend to it. There will be
Yeah,
some horror aspects.
like a
So,
thriller more than anything else. I think was kind of the imagery, but he did mention that horror, which was an interesting angle for this. Like that got me.
He said thriller, and I'm like Michael Jackson. What? The power is in a leather jacket. It's not in a ring.
hey, what's up, Chop Harder Alchemist? Who says, "Yo, late, but I made it to the live. Let's get them likes up." That's what I'm talking about. We have 100 people here right now, and half that amount of likes. Let's hit that like button.
Yeah,
You guys know, you guys know that when you don't hit the like button, that is a red flag. That is a red flag. You need to smash it.
chop that like button hard.
Chop it.
Nice.
The Al Ewing interview that we did will be up this week as well. As we said, there are plenty of awesome interviews coming your way. So you're really, really going to want to keep it locked with us because I'm going to say it. I don't fe- I watched a lot of YouTubers walk around this weekend. All credit in the world to them. But very few were doing the grunt work. Omar was doing it. Omar from Near Mint Condition was doing the grunt work.
Can I just say real quick, Omar, terrific dude, real chill dude.
He's a great guy. And you're going to see more of him on our channel for sure. Wonderful human. He treated us very well. Much respect. Sal was doing it.
Yeah,
Sal
that's
from
right.
Comic Pop was doing it. BJ Kicks was running around. Comics are dope. But a lot of other people weren't doing it. And I guarantee you that every single day this week, you're going to see our faces interviewing creators that we did on the show floor because we did that for you guys. So every day this week, you're gonna be eating good with the Comics Pals. I guarantee that. Spiral Storm says, still waiting for Sean to get a sheriff outfit. Hey, listen, it ain't Halloween.
Oh,
Not
it's
yet.
coming up though, and we're live that day. So
You'll have to show up. You'll have to show up.
God, about to go to Party City just to see that, man. Drop it off at your place.
I'm tempted to go as Sean as the sheriff.
That's blackface.
Well, I wouldn't do blackface. All right, jeez. I've done. I was Tyrone Biggums once for Halloween. I didn't have to do blackface for that.
You kind of do.
Self-report.
I mean, if you're gonna do Tyrone Biggums, my God. Um, Real quick, there wasn't a lot to talk about with Absolute Batman, but I did think this was a pretty cool bit that maybe you guys will appreciate. We did get to see the Batmobile at the panel, which
Oh,
wasn't a
yeah.
mobile, it was a fucking building. Like,
It's a dumpy. It's a big old dump truck.
yeah, yeah. It looked phenomenal.
They explained. I think it was Scott who explained how it's revealed. I don't want to say it, but it's pretty funny. And he was saying that like it's just with Absolute Batman, everything is just bigger. It's writ large. Just go bigger and bigger and bigger.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
The emblem's getting bigger and bigger every issue.
But the other thing we learned is that in issue 4, we will have a fill-in artist. Our first, Nick Dragota, needs a little time. And when they put the series together, they baked in a few breakpoints where Nick could go away and catch up and get ahead, and there could be meaningful issues that will take place in the margins. And that's something that I really appreciate, that this is something that they worked out in advance. And so when they first were making this announcement, I was bummed out. Like, why would you announce? Why would you come to New York Comic Con to announce that we're not getting Nick Dragota for more than 3 issues in a row? But then when they said issue 4 was Batman Year One, drawn by Gabriel Hernandez Walta, I said, "Oh shit!" I said, "Holy shit! Let's go!" That is the way you make a big time announcement.
I was gonna ask your opinion on this specifically because I feel like you especially for some of the stuff like Ultimate Spider-Man, right? We haven't been receptive to the change in art, and I think that's warranted. And I'm trying to remember if outside of solicitations that was announced in this way. I think the fact that you're being upfront with these changes is a good thing because it allows people to mentally prepare, but also you have a good selection of who is going to be covering on that piece on that issue. Um, and then you know that you're getting right back into it. Like we didn't know for Ultimate Spider-Man we would get this many fill-ins, whereas if this is plotted and planned, again, it's consideration. You're thinking about the long term. You're thinking about how this affects readers and how this affects people who are going to be enjoying this in a collected in a trade.
Yeah, it's kind of how I feel about it. It's just it seems like they were realistic when planning this, in the sense
Yeah.
that like Dragota, he like during East to West, like that took some breaks, East to West. So just being like honest with yourselves as a creative team to know like, all right, I'm gonna need maybe a month here, a month there, and then that gives Scott the opportunity to be like, all right, cool, we'll do a one shot here, one shot there. I think that's smart. I think it's good for an ongoing, and to have art, which like Gabriel Hernandez Walta, fantastic. Not a guy I would see on a Batman proper book, like in my head, you know. So having like an artist kind of filling in where Dragota isn't is a smart move in my eyes. That helps kind of establish that you know, with Wes Craig's first intro in it, in the All In special, that visually this universe is going to be a little different.
Yeah, Tilo says, to be fair, it feels plotted on in Ultimate Spider-Man, at least to me. The difference for me is that in this particular instance, they didn't get an artist who does anything close to what Dragata does, and they're not telling a story that is the present moment story. That is key. They're telling a story that flashes back. It goes backwards, and it's not like, man, I really want to see Marco Cicchetto draw the stuff that is happening in this moment, but he's not here. So they have to give us, half an issue of, Harry or Uncle Ben and Jana Jonah Jameson sitting and talking because they can't advance the plot forward. That feels frustrating. That slows the propulsion down. This is going to give us meaningful backstory.
And I think just the also the monthly dynamic of the plot for Spider-Man also is an additional thing that helps like really put the brakes on things, I feel.
Yeah, for sure. Reaper XC says once Hickman has done his 18 issues of USM and what the Ultimate Universe is building to, what big initiative or idea will Hickman bring to Marvel? I think he's going to bring big initiatives and ideas to DC.
Oh, you're
That's
gonna be
what I
that
think.
guy. Okay. And we're talking about who does Batman after Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb. A Hickman Batman would be massive.
Mm-hmm.
But
That would be
also,
nuts.
I'm not Hickman. I don't got that brain, dude. I have way less wrinkles in my brain to be able to even come up with an idea of what Hickman could come up with.
I mean, I think he'll be on the Legion, Legion of
Yeah,
Superheroes.
yeah, that's always been the thing people want. Maybe it'll make me like Legion.
That's the thing he wants. He
True.
was
Yeah.
leaving Marvel to go and do that. And then they said, oh, we have this thing called Disney money. What's your address so we can pull up a Brinks truck to your fucking house and make you write Avengers vs. Aliens? And he said, oh, I didn't realize you could do this. Okay, sounds good. Whatever you need.
And that book is
Love
still
it.
pretty good.
Hell yeah. It's fantastic. I love it. Yeah, so that was the major announcement we got for Absolute Batman. I'm very much looking forward to that. There were, we got a little bit more about Absolute Flash. We got a little bit more about Metamorpho. There were some other announcements in there, but I feel like, we pretty much understand the gist of what's important about those things. That was the bulk of what we learned about DC at New York Comic Con 2024. What do you guys make of their announcements?
The
Overall?
most, honestly, for me, the most hyped part of the show was DC across the board, which is wild for a publisher that did not have a booth. Not only did they not have
Yeah.
a booth, like remember, like New York Comic Con, they usually have at least like towards the southernmost side of the building, this section where they'll have like movie costumes, they'll have like
Yep.
DCEU stuff, and maybe a booth to sell some shirts or whatever or variants. They didn't even have that. They had zero physical presence.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the actual bulk of the comic hype was for them. They were really just putting away at those panels, and I think the buzz through creators was there. Um, a lot of their creators that are working on their books now were there.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely helped.
I mean, Ron B flew in just to make the announcement and then bounced out, like they were there to make sure that you knew what was important and what needed to get across. And I agree. I think DC knocked it out of the park. I was so excited for all of the book announcements, for the things that I already was excited for. There's a need. I need to get this stuff. This needs to get into my hands. I'm gonna go pick up a lot of this stuff honestly in physical, because I wanna see that new Aquaman book. I wanna see New Gods. I wanna see these absolute books that are coming out because they all look so interesting.
I think it's you'd have to be you'd have to be telling yourself lies to say that DC didn't own the moment this weekend. Regardless of whether you consider yourself a Marvel, I'm a Marvel guy, but we can only talk facts.
Same.
DC put their whole ass into this weekend, and I think that coming out of this event, everybody's words and minds and thoughts was on everything that DC announced for 25.
They stepped their absolute pussy up this year.
Whoa.
What? That's a phrase. Step your pussy up. That's a thing.
Um, hey, Grayson Red, by the way, it was great to meet you, man. Thank
Yeah,
you for
dude.
coming up to us.
Hey,
It's good to see you. Style So Serious says, "Are we sure that's the case with Hickman? I heard that the mouse is ruthless when it comes to his money. 100%. It's the truth. Jonathan Hickman was taking meetings with DC in 2018, 2017. He was done with Marvel. Marvel in the mid 2010s was a very different company, and he's been open about the fact that he did not really enjoy himself because the culture was different.
Perlmutter was still reigning supreme back then.
It was Perlmutter,
Yeah.
but just like internally, just there was stuff he wasn't really happy about. The X-Men were locked up. There were a lot of things that he wasn't pleased with. And it wasn't until they pulled up the Brinks truck, said, slow your roll, don't go to DC, take money, and then take the X-Men. And he said, all right, I'll stick around for a few more years. And the rest is history. Um, what else? What else? Eddie 1343 says, interesting to see DC announcing all these absolute titles, while Marvel seems to be very selective when it comes to what new Ultimate series they release. Wonder where that is going to lead. Well, we have the answer. We're going to get into that in just a moment, buddy. We've got an answer for that. They announced one new Ultimates book, but there's another thing that I'm not even going to say that.
I know,
I'll
I
leave
know
that
too,
off.
Sean. But yeah, I don't. It's I don't want to talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll leave that. We'll leave that to them to announce down the road. Tilo said, "Did you guys talk about Absolute Flash?" Not really, because I feel like there's nothing to say. We know it's Wally, but we knew that already. It looks great. Of course, it looks great.
Captain Cold's hot. I think they called him Hot Cold.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hot cold. Yeah, cool. Nick Robles, Jeff Lemire, exciting stuff. We'll be reviewing that. We'll be there for that for sure. You guys ready to talk some Marvel?
Oh, the Marvel said announced things.
Yeah. Well, always laughing says, so what they say about Absolute Flash. We just talked about it. Always laughing. Good to see you. There's really not too much to say. It's an exciting series. Tyler's got it up right now. You can see Hot Cold and all the rogues were there.
The big
Yeah.
thing I think that Lemire mentioned was that like Wally is the first Flash. There's no legacy to this character.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
the big switch with the Flash here.
Yeah. Yep. So Marvel, not to be outdone without making an attempt, they did have some announcements this week that we should get into. The first of those announcements was definitely the most controversial, and any other week would be the main topic. So Marvel announced their answer to DC Compact Comics during the New York Comic Con retailer portion of the event, which takes place on Wednesday. Retailers, creators, and select press were able to attend this day, which is just for them. And at this event, Marvel decided to make their announcement of the Marvel Premiere Collection. And so this is going to be essentially a very similar concept to Compact Comics. It's slightly bigger dimensions, 6x9, which is slightly larger than the DC Comics Compact Comics editions. But that's not the only change. In addition to that, these are $14.99. Whereas, of course, we know that DC Compact Comics are $10, so $9.99. And the selection has been something that people have pointed out as being different and for their money, not as strong. So we have the announcement of Daredevil, Black Panther. The Black Panther series is A Nation Under Our Feet. The Captain America piece is Captain America versus the Winter Soldier. The Daredevil piece, by the way, is Born Again. And then the Fantastic Four piece is Solve Everything, which is from Jonathan Hickman's run with Dale Eaglesham on art, Neil Edwards, and Steve Epting. And that one is actually curated. So it's not the whole run. None of these are like front to back the entire run of anything except Born Again for obvious reasons.
Did I read Black Panther as the whole thing too?
Black Panther is not the whole thing.
Okay.
It is the whole Nation Under Our Feet story.
Got it. Okay.
First arc.
Yeah. But the Fantastic Four Solve Everything collection was actually hand picked by Jonathan Hickman. He specifically picked which issues they would include and which they would leave out. And I have already seen people, complaining about this. Why is it more expensive? Why aren't they including the whole runs? Let me tell you something. Remember when I said that the DC Compact Comics price was setting a bad precedent for comics? Now, people who were paying $40, $25, $30 for trades and hardcover collections are saying that 18 issues for $15 is too expensive. Let's do the math. Whenever you would have bought A Nation Under Our Feet, Winter Soldier, or Fantastic Four, the base price would have been $2.99. Okay? So if you're getting, let's say, 15 issues for $2.99, we could even say 10 issues for $2.99. I'm not a genius, but I can do some math. That's $30. $30 is what it would cost you to get 10 issues. So how is half of that a bad deal?
Still good. Still cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, that's not my issue with this. I don't understand why people are like 15 for most of this. Maybe you could maybe say Born Again might be a bit of a stretch for 15.
Why?
But
it's discounted. It's it's $20, $25 maybe.
How many issues is Born Again? I remember Born Again not being that many issues.
We have it here at numbers 226 through 233, so that's like maybe 7.
It's more than I remember. Okay. Oh yeah, I guess this is fine. Yeah, this isn't the issue I had with this. I think you were right, Sean. In this, oh God, that hurt to say. That people were going to complain when either the price went up or the alternative for Marvel was not the exact same. So good call there. But yeah, that's fine in my eyes.
What's your issue with it?
Design.
Yeah.
I think was it Dark Dragon X7 said this is the Penguin Classics of Marvel books. This is the most like your grandpa's paperback novel. Like I thought we were getting, Ed Brubaker's Pride and Prejudice or something. Like I think they're ugly. They're such iconic covers. These things like Winter Soldier, Born Again, the Black Panther stuff. It is so iconic that it's an intern with Photoshop was able to use the select AI tool to get the main character out of it and then add a transparency filter to the rest on a white background. There, I did your cover in 5 minutes. There's no skill to it. Even the font is boring too. Like it's default word fonts. There's no. I can't even make the graphic design as my passion joke because there's no graphic design here. The covers alone will stop me from buying these.
Compared to the way that DC compact comics look, it looks like they're curated well. It looks like they're made for the design of the book. Yeah, look at that.
They pick out a specific. I mean, I got a blur filter on. But they pick out a specific part of the cover to kind of showcase. It's a showcase of the art. Where this seems like a hiding of it, honestly.
Yeah, a little ashamed of it.
I think the Fantastic Four one looks quite good. But I agree with you that the rest are just basic and bare and boring.
Because you didn't have as much negative space in the Fantastic Four one to take out.
Yeah,
that was just
it's white background.
Yeah. But even like the red of it, like it's literally like Arial black or with white. Like it's just boring. There's no oomph to it.
And I think going back to that cost piece, I mean, if this ultimately is what you're getting and is meant to be a competitor to DC's compact comics, it's interesting that they're increasing it by the $5. It always feels like Marvel books are just slightly more expensive than DC books, even when it comes to trade paperbacks, right? Like maybe a DC 6-issue, 7-issue trade is $20, but it's $25 for Marvel, and it could be the same floppy. It doesn't have to be the hardcover, right? So they're playing into maybe some of the name brand, which to me feels a little annoying. Like if you're gonna go and make these loss leaders, yes, we're still getting a deal on it, but to make the direct comparison, I think DC proves to be more value still.
Value, yes. Yeah, for sure. And I think that, DC is aware that for whatever reason, their books are hard to sell. Not in the graphic novel space. The graphic novel space, DC slaughters Marvel. There's
Mm,
no question.
And I think the inverse shows here with having to curate some of these books and pick and choose specific things, because I think Marvel lacks the ability to have standalone arcs or stories to be able to collect in something that is like just pick off the shelf for anyone. So that's why I'm okay with the curated part of like the Fantastic Four. You can't give someone Hickman's Fantastic Four omnibus as like a gift. This you can though.
I don't even I don't even know that it has anything to do with, you know, whether or not Marvel has those seminal runs, because you could take Life Story. Fantastic Four Life Story would have
mm,
been something that they could have put in this style. You could
true.
take, you know, Jack Kirby's old stuff, you know, and put it in this style. They don't want to go that old, but you could do that. You could take Fantastic Four Full Circle and put it in this style. Like there's a lot of choices.
You think it's a little weird that we don't? This is lacking two things. Uh, any female-led books. We have Invisible Woman, Sue Storm. That's about it. And it's missing the big three. It's missing X-Men, Avengers, and Spider-Man.
Yeah, that was my first thought. It's missing X-Men. Like if you're gonna do a book like that to bring people in, Hoxpox, man. Like that fit this pretty well. The Thor as well makes a lot of sense for this.
There are so many great options that they have. So many. We could sit here. I could easily come up with a list of 20 titles that I think would make perfect sense for this line. I think they made good choices. I think they could have not necessarily made better ones because these are great, but made more choices. There should be more options. And I think that's lacking.
This feels like a bit of a half-assed attempt, or like
It's
they're not
reactionary.
sure. They're a little nervous about it.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't do this on the first date. You know, like one of those kind of things.
Philosopher King says $15 Hoxbox. Holy moly. Right, dude. And it's like, think about this just for one moment, right? Like, just don't be a fan, you know, forget that part of your brain.
Stop it.
Think about business. Hoxpox trades are $50, I believe. Okay? They're never going to stop selling Hoxpox. Why in the world would they give that away for $15? What business reason could there be to do that? It doesn't make sense.
Cole has a good point here, though. Cap and Daredevil time for the movie and TV show coming out. Fantastic Four as well.
Yeah.
So I can see why these are the launch ones.
It's fair. I still think you're hitting two different audiences with these kinds of books. People who are tangentially interested in comics versus people who are integrated into the fold. I would argue that as you get more and more into the fandom, you double dip more and more. And I think when you want to be able to move away from the compact comics, from these premier collections into a proper trade, into a hardcover, into an omnibus, as you go further down that funnel, or even into weeklies. I think that this isn't for those people. So you still have those two paths of revenue: the Hoxpox at the $50 for the fan who has been reading and wants to have that experience, versus the newcomer to comics who is price sensitive and wants to see what X-Men might be like, and if they enjoy it, oh cool, where can I go from here?
Okay. Fine. What was the most recently released book that DC chose to make a compact comic?
It's Far Sector, right?
Right.
The most
What
recent.
was the relevance of Far Sector to any of DC's major universes or characters? Nothing. There is no reason to sell Hoxpox that way, because Hoxpox is an integral piece of their X-Men comics, and they're still selling like hotcakes. If you give that up, and then, you know, then it's not a book, it's a book that works on its own, but it's a book that leads into so much more. There's no equivalent in the premiere. There's no premiere version of the Hickman's X-Men that's going to be coming. If you give that up for $15, people aren't going to spend the 50 on the trade, and they still have a financial incentive to sell that. Far Sector is a great book, but it's irrelevant to them at this point. I don't think Hoxpox is.
Mm.
In any event, these are the ones that they're offering for now. Tilo says Hoxpox is also not a full story. Yeah, but neither is Court of Owls, right? Like, it's a full story unto itself with the promise of more, just like I would argue all of these options, right? Um, this is what Marvel put out. It didn't land the way that Compact announcement did. Uh, for whatever reason, whether people are right or wrong for how they feel or what their critiques are, there are a lot of criticisms. And my hope is that they can figure out a way to make this more exciting for people going forward.
Start with the trade dressing, man.
It looks boring. Yeah, it's got to pop.
Near says I wouldn't have heard of Far Sector if it wasn't in DC Compacts. That's awesome.
I think Sector also works because of the weight that N.K. Jemisin has in the book market. So I think there was a reason for it outside of the comics.
Okay, so that was the way Marvel kicked off the week, but they certainly continued to make other announcements. We got the announcement of the return to Marvel of Steve McNiven, which is extremely exciting, alongside Charles Soule, who are returning to a character that at least Charles Soule is very familiar with, that being Daredevil, because they're going to be doing Daredevil Cold Day in Hell, which is essentially an old man Logan style story starring Daredevil. Marvel says this will be set in a Marvel Universe future on the brink of collapse. The series introduces a grizzled, older version of Matt Murdock. So that is really exciting. They did release some preview images from Steve McNiven, who is one of my absolute favorite artists, of course, the artist behind Marvel Civil War, and you can see the echoes of Civil War in the design of the logo, if you will. It very much gives that aesthetic. Charles Soule, for his part, said the following. Quote, I know whatever idea I write is going to be executed masterfully by Steve, and that level of trust allows you to take a lot of risks. It's been a really interesting process because the way we made it is something I wouldn't do with an artist that I didn't have this level of collaboration and trust with. We've been working on this book for 4 years, and that time has been well spent.
Damn,
Damn, 4 years.
that's a long time, man.
I liked Soule's Daredevil run too, so um, seeing him kind of come back to it sounds pretty interesting actually.
Yeah, I'm pumped for this. I think this is pretty cool. I think Daredevil is a character who I'm interested in seeing sort of his last days. Um, what is he like as an old man? What does he become? Is he still willing to take the same risks? Is he still a Daredevil? And of course, by all accounts, the answer is yes, according to this series. Is he going to be just facing up against an old version of Bullseye? Is Bullseye going to be whipping around in the wheelchair, throwing darts and fucking cards and shit? Is that the gimmick?
Maybe like mahjong, bingo chips.
Flick them over.
Oh
Um,
my goodness.
I like Charles Soule. Steve McNiven's good. But this isn't immediately stirring anything for me. Um, I'm not. I want to read more Daredevil stuff, but I want to read the Daredevil things that are currently happening, stuff that's happened in the past, to kind of go into an old man type style. I feel like I've seen and I've read some of those books before, not of Daredevil, but I get the gist. So this isn't lighting me on fire.
I'm fine with this. I like Old Man Logan was what it was. Um, I think like the life stories kind of scratch a similar itch. I mean, all of them are really harkening back to like Dark Knight, but
Hmm.
more Daredevil and by Steve McNiven, like that alone, it's just like, yeah, sure, I'm gonna check this out when it comes out.
I mean, I'm personally not reading the current Daredevil book, so that alone makes me excited for the fact that okay, the current Daredevil book's not for me, but they are publishing something by two creators who I am completely sold on in a unique to Daredevil sort of story. So I have no reason not to check this out.
You gotta scratch that Irish Catholic guilt itch.
Yes. CW Gordon says, I want Daredevil life story bad. Hey, that's a great idea.
I mean, Chip, right? Chip's done Daredevil. I mean, maybe give him some more time away from the character if he wants to do a life story on that.
I almost wouldn't even I don't know if I want to see it from Chip.
He did the other two life stories, right? He did Spider Man and he did Fantastic Four.
He didn't do FF. That was that I want to say that was Mark Russell.
You're right. Okay, so it's not exclusive to Chip. Okay, yep, you're right.
So let's get somebody. I don't know who. I don't have a name necessarily, but I just kind of want to see someone different. I don't know. Dan asks Marco, have you read more Daredevil in the last 1+ year? I remember you not being too familiar with the runs.
Yeah, I just responded to him, but I haven't, and that's kind of what I mean. Like, I want to first see what the big stories are, first get more familiar so that something like this can excite me because I want more. I want a different perspective, but I don't know. I feel like enough to be able to say uh, that this is different or he's growing or he has gone to a place that is dark and now has to come back. Like, there's only so much outside of the Brubaker run that we read not too long ago.
Wade Insomni did a run. If you liked Batman and Robin year one, I think you'd like that.
Oh,
Soul
yeah.
did a run. Um, Sean likes the run. I don't care. The Andy Diggle run, right? The
Hell
Shadowland
yeah,
stuff.
Shadowland.
Um, there's a lot of good stuff. I mean, honestly, I'd recommend watching the show too. I know it's not comics, but we read a lot of comics on here, and sometimes it's a little hard to read more comics. So if you want to scratch an itch a different way, the show is very good.
I like the shows. Those are cool.
Oh, so you've seen the shows?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He better have because we definitely reviewed them.
Yeah.
So if he hadn't, that
Before
would
me.
be fucking crazy. Hey, I don't want to let us get too far before we talk about, well, we've got a couple things to talk about, but they're very important things. So the first one that I want to dive into before we continue with the news is we've got to talk about the book club because there's not a lot of time remaining, and I want to make an announcement that I didn't think I was going to be making. I thought that the book club poll was a done deal. I didn't think that there was a chance that anything other than Rot World would win. I didn't. I thought it was 100% Rot World to the point where I nearly started reading it in advance because I was so sure. Well, as it turns out, Rot World did not win.
What?
Nope. The winner of the poll is Justice League Dark Wonder Woman The Witching Hour.
The
Marco's Swamp
fuck?
Thing loses again.
You
Mm-hmm.
guys just don't like to see me happy.
I don't think they do, dude. I don't think they do.
It's Tynion. Does that do
And
anything for you?
anyway, you like Justice League Dark.
I did. Yeah, I did.
So we'll be doing that on the 29th of October, celebrating Super Spooky Month here at the Comics Palace headquarters. So this is your week warning that that is the book that you should be reading if you want to partake in our incoming book club. That's very exciting. I can't wait.
I remember liking it, I think.
I didn't read it.
Yeah, I read this when it came out. I remember. I'll have to read it to really kick my memory back in. But
Yeah, same.
judging by the cover that I stole from it, I remember liking it.
Yeah, it was fun. I remember reading it as it was coming out, but I don't remember if I finished it all the way or not. And I remember kind of falling off Just League Dark and picking up issues here and there after at a certain point.
Nier says we'll do our own Rot World book club.
Hell
Hey,
yeah.
the Discord community book clubs are fire, and they happen weekly, so there is space for that.
They filled in for us yesterday, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Mhm.
Manhunter.
Yeah.
God, that was
Um,
good.
the other thing I wanted to do is I want to shout out the people who made it possible for us to eat this weekend. The people who made it possible for us to have some comics bucks this weekend. The people who make doing this show every single week so absolutely incredible, which includes you live viewers. But a particular shout out to our patrons, who I have never been happier to speak about, because this weekend was a reminder of why we do what we do and how amazing you guys are. And the support that you have shown us over the last year is unbelievable. And you deserve all the love and praise in the world. And that's what I have inside of me for you. So, a very special shout out to our Palsverse legends, Thunderstruck Rebecca Alejandro, the Hound of Justice, Atomic Hound, Starcross Catherine Stars, the Red Spiral Spiral Storm, Orseus the Waterbound, and Adam and Bernie, the bestest boy. And I want to give a thank you to Palsverse members, the Night Stalker Harris Dajinski, Brian Demolisher Del Pozo, Kefis the Incorruptible, Momentum Mike Elliott, Dan the Truth Trudeau, Jalen the Sanguine Sorcerer, Marley Manastorm, Slow Flow Dameron, Christian Uncaged Harriet, Always Laughing, The Spirit of Justice, Izzy's Issues, the Great Destroyer, Hyper Viper 89, Robert Runback Catchaback, Pete the Dreamweaver Collins, Matthew Malice Price, James Just Jamming Jones, Amin Almighty Perez, Paul Powerhouse Smith, Andrew the Galaxian Smith, Neon Knight, the Cosmic Avenger, Matthew the Shade Cosmo, BJ Kicks, the Living Blade, Boss Frontier, the Grand Alchemist, Chop Harder Alchemist, John Barrier B, Simon, Gale Force, Garrett Garnett, Todd, Tremor Butler, Cameron Cavernous Gordon, Doomsday David Melendez Doria, Cameron Thornton, Steve Canaris, Brian Redmond, and Panda v Panda. Those are people who we owe Origins to. I am so sorry that we haven't been able to deliver them. It's been a crazy time, as I'm sure you're aware. Next week, we'll be back to business as usual, and we will get through some of those. But I just wanted to make sure that you guys got your time, because what you do for us is special, and we really, really appreciate it.
That was a tough one after the con, Sean. All that talking.
Oh, yeah, my
I'm
voice is
losing my
going to
voice.
be.
I could feel it happening.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the fuck, how I'm managing, but thankfully I haven't lost it yet. We're not done yet, because Marvel wasn't done making announcements. And there were some Doom centric ones, because as we know, Doctor Doom is taking over in 2025. We already heard about One World Under Doom, and that is a more of a Dark Reign style initiative that we'll be getting. And that's cool and exciting. But in addition to that, which we already knew about, we are getting The Rise of Emperor Doom, which is a 5-issue limited series, notably not referred to as an event. So I'm not sure if they're considering it such, but it will be written by Ryan North, which is a great thing. That's a fantastic bit. And RB Silva will be on art. RB Silva, of course, one of the shepherds, one of the stewards of the Krakoan era, who really helped define the look and feel of that. Um, February 2025 is when we are going to see Doctor Doom's ascension here. And for those of you who read last year's Timeless, or whatever they called it last year, it included an image of various heroes bowing to Doctor Doom. And the cover of this is that same visual idea.
I said that Marvel really didn't announce much here. This announcement still got me pretty excited. Doom is like top three characters for me at Marvel. So seeing Doom kind of take center stage, and like yes, I am a fan. I know why this is happening. Uh, they got to establish the character a little more before the movies. But the creative team on this is what got me excited. Ryan North's Fantastic Four. Like I might be pooping on Marvel right now, or at least praising DC, but Fantastic Four is still probably my favorite big two book right now. And Ryan North is doing fantastic. Oh God, didn't mean to make that pun. Fantastic work on that book, and throw RB Silva into the mix uh, spells disaster for my time spent reading this because I'm pretty excited for it. I think it's going to be pretty damn good book. And some of the preview pages too showed like Squirrel Girl is involved, which goes all the way back to like what Ryan North first started writing at Marvel. And like even someone like brain drain from his Squirrel Girl run is with the Avengers. So because she did beat Doctor Doom, so she has some familiarity with us. I'm excited to see what wacky shit he's gonna do. Because it's not. I don't feel like it's gonna be super serious. I feel like it's gonna be a little bit more on the whimsical comic booky side of things, and I'm kind of ready for that.
Yeah, I think the creative team is the big draw here. I want to fall in love with a lot of Doom stuff, and uh, I think this is going to be a way to continue to familiarize myself with the character more. And I think with the creative team that's we have on, I mean, from what I've been hearing from you guys, from the community about Ryan's uh, current run on Fantastic Four, that I can only expect good things, and so I'm excited for that. I want to like this event, and I'm coming in with that excitement.
Yeah. I didn't love Blood Hunt, and I certainly didn't care too much for the way that Doctor Doom kind of ascended to power. Obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously. For those of you who don't know, he is now the Sorcerer Supreme, and that is a massive level up for Doom. And so now he has, power that he hasn't had in many years. The last time Doctor Doom was this powerful, you got to go all the way back to Secret Wars 2015. So about a decade has gone by. While Doom has, he's been here and there, but he's been mostly low key. Now the rise of Doom is going to show us a Doom who's all powerful without any apparent limitations whatsoever. It's going to be interesting to see the way that Marvel charts their course for the next year and how they're going to stop this guy. But I'm excited for this. They got me again. It
Mm.
happens all the time. I'm a sucker. I know. I got it. But I'm very much looking forward to this. It should be a lot of fun. And I agree with Tilo. Them comparing it to Dark Reign is very exciting.
That
Oh,
scratches my itch. Mark, you're not familiar with that era, right?
nah.
Oh, dude, peak, peak.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Super, super hype. Here's a funny comment. Style So Serious says comics pals, I'm pocket watching. What that comics pull list expense look like. You're funny. You're funny. Um,
That's
No
called
expense,
that's called
buddy.
a self report, and we ain't doing it.
No, I'll tell you
yeah,
right now, I got that budget under lock and key. Nobody.
we don't dip into the Pals piggy bank to pay for our weekly pull lists. So that would just be I'm not willing to tell you that in a specific way, but I will tell you that my personal pull list every week, which you guys, if you listen to Pals Pulls, how many books I buy. The amount of books is a lot. The cost of them would have to be commiserate, right?
Let's just say on Thursday we're eating ice soup. Okay.
Guys, you're eating dinner?
Oh man. Well, this is cool. This is exciting. It's not as exciting as again what DC put out there, but I still think I still think it's cool. But there was one Ultimates announcement. We knew that Marvel had to have something up their sleeve regarding the Ultimate line. They couldn't just not announce anything in that sphere. And they announced something that I didn't see coming whatsoever. So I'll say the creative team first because this is the part that some of us knew. Chris Condon and Alessandro Capuccio are taking on an X book. That, or I'm sorry, not an X book, an Ultimates book. That we knew. What we didn't know is that it is Ultimate Wolverine.
Hmm.
The Ultimate Wolverine is coming, who is an agent of the Maker. He's an
Oh, he's the
assassin.
man.
If you look at the costume design, which I happen to think is sick, it's very radical and cool. He's got a mask, but he's got a very specifically designed mask that should make eagle eyed readers think about the Winter Soldier.
You look at his costume too in the front. It's not an X. It's a star.
Yep. And there's a cover that shows him attacking Omega Red. It appears like he's attacking Omega Red and maybe helping Colossus, which makes a lot of sense because Colossus is one of he's a part of the Maker's, sort of Illuminati secret society.
I don't know how I feel about this. It is a radical reinvention, but my first thought goes to, like, why Wolverine? Like, he
Really?
carries his it's just like he carries a solo title for sure, but it's not my first go-to for like another character here.
I think it's the most obvious pick, actually. A, like Ultimate Wolverine is an established property as well. Like in the previous Ultimates line, Ultimate Wolverine was a book.
Mm,
Um, so there's some precedent there. But he's a malleable character, really, Wolverine, and he sells. He will sell a book. So I think it makes sense to do it. This is where like the design's cool. I like Chris Condon as a writer, but I'm gonna have to read this to know if I'm into it. I will be picking it up, and I think the premise is interesting. But if I get the end of issue 1 and I find out there's gonna be a monthly stop in between issues, I'm gonna be pissed. I'm hoping this guy
Oh
kind of
God.
gets a chance to just be a book without a gimmick and just tell a story.
Yeah, I don't care about Wolverine all that much. I'm not like the biggest Wolverine fan by any means, and I think normally this sort of announcement would be like, "Oh God, more stuff." But the Ultimate Universe is it feels special and it feels interesting and vibrant. So my assumption is that there's a good reason for this book to exist outside of just financial reasons. Um, you know, Ultimate X-Men is not what you would expect Marvel to put out,
yeah.
but it is radical. It is different. A lot of people like it. I'm not among them. But it justifies itself by being all the things I just said. So if Ultimate Wolverine is coming into the picture and it's already starting from a place that's a little bit left of center from what we're used to with the character, and it seems like it's promising some different things, that's enough for me to give it a chance. Why not? I'm into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
where I land on this too.
Yeah. Um, Fresh News 24/7 says, I wonder where we'll get the Ultimate Summers. This is awesome because it put the it put the Peach stuff in a more respectful place where I can appreciate that without hating it for having no real X-Men. Well, I hate to break it to you, Fresh News, but as far as we're aware, Ultimate Scott Summers at least has no future because Ultimate X-Men has already introduced a version of Cyclops, and it is not Scott. It is as all the Ultimate X-Men have been so far, a young Asian woman, a
And it's
young
a Summers
schoolgirl.
character too. Her name translates to Summers in when you translate it from the Japanese.
Right. So we won't be getting that anytime soon.
Yeah. It's interesting. Uh, yeah, we'll check it out. I mean, I feel like we have to gauge it off of what it's gonna do. But it's interesting that it's gonna be about an agent of the Maker. That's an interesting piece that is different from the other books. At least it's focused on of an antagonistic angle.
Well, and there's also a precedent for Wolverine and memory loss
Sure.
that we've had, and it's like in his lore of a character. So seeing that in the moment, really, and how he manages that and deals with that, because I'm assuming that's what the Winter Soldier is. There's memory loss there a lot. Um, so seeing that played with in the present as opposed to just hearing about that in the past could be an interesting take on it.
Hmm.
P.W. Gordon says she could just be another lost summer sibling. Apparently, they're all over the place. Corsair could have had a Japanese fling.
Yeah,
That's
That
funny.
mustache, dude, does it.
gets people.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know a ton, but I think just on its face, when I look at that cover and I look at the artwork that we've seen, I feel a lot of reasons to be excited. So I will be there on the ground floor. Um, I really hope that this sticks the landing more than certain things like you know, that we've seen from the Ultimate line. One thing I did want to mention though is that this book has a particular benefit of being the first Ultimates book that I can think of. Maybe I'm misremembering, but it's the first Ultimates book to launch after the initial wave. So Chris
Yeah,
Condon can look at what went right and wrong and maybe make some adjustments that will make this feel good.
that's a good point. Yeah, he has at least what, maybe 10 issues. Ultimate Spider-Man's what's that? 9, 10?
We're not even that far yet. No.
No.
And if
Um.
he's already written this, I would presume he has a couple issues at least to gauge from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
And
like probably like at issue 4 you can start to feel the effect because I imagine he's already written some stuff.
well, also, of course, he very well may have had access to things that we didn't
Mm,
have access to at the time. So
yeah.
I'm hopeful that this book can reflect the good and bad, his learning about the good and bad of what has worked and not in the Ultimates, and bring that forth. Max says, I think the second or third arc will be him joining the Ultimates, maybe, or maybe he just remains anti hero, occasional villain, allied like Black Adam. Well, it's Wolverine, so they're not going to leave him out the mix.
But we do know with his introduction, the hierarchy and the power in the Ultimate Universe will probably change. So
Very likely. The fair point. Um, that's that's it. It's really all Marvel did. Unless I didn't see something. This is all that I've really noticed that was of note. Obviously, there are some smaller things about, like Spider-Verse versus Venomverse, but I feel like those kinds of things are not really what we talk about here on the channel too much, and I don't care about it, and I don't want to come on here and just shit on stuff. So, we're not including those kinds of announcements. But keeping it to what we talked about here today, what do you think about Marvel's portion of New York Comic Con?
underwhelming, or no, sorry, whelmed. I'm whelmed. That's how I feel
Yeah.
about it. It just felt like a reveals they would have done during any week throughout the year, but just a couple of them done at the same time. It didn't feel special.
It didn't feel like a moment. Like it wasn't capturing as part of some kind of occasion. It felt like this. Some of these could have been announcements, be gotten after, before even things that would have drummed up or laddered up to something larger. But there wasn't anything at the end of that, and so I think they were good. I think there are definitely some things that are of interest and that definitely want to come into, especially from an event standpoint, which I think is important. But I mean, outside of that, I can I'm not getting the same kind of chills or excitement that I did off of the DC stuff, for example.
Um, yeah, I mean, I I think it's okay. Like I like all this stuff. This is all stuff that I will buy. This is all stuff that I consider myself to be excited about. But I just think that, sometimes you're not sometimes it's not your time. You know, sometimes you just don't have the big announcements. You don't necessarily have all that stuff in the pipe. And we've talked about Marvel maybe coasting a little bit. And I'm not talking about the creators. I'm talking about the top end, that maybe they feel like, hey, we're making money hand over fist still. We are selling floppies better than anybody else in the industry, and we don't have to try. It makes me think about like Sony. Every other console cycle, Sony sucks because the one before that, they were the top dog. And anytime that they're the top dog, they stop trying until people stop buying their next console. So it almost feels as though Marvel needs a kick in the butt to be willing to push the envelope. But as of now, Marvel is playing to what they know will work, and they're not really stretching outside of that.
I think also if maybe some insider baseball is known on behalf of the Marvel team, the Marvel editors, the Marvel PR people, maybe it's hard to or hard to compete, with all of the stuff that's being announced from the DC. And so maybe the smart play is wait for that stuff to give them the moment, wait for that stuff to kind of die down, and then we'll try to catch up on the more weekly news cycles, where you can build out fervor outside of NYCC. I think New York has a lot of it has a lot of eyes on it, but that doesn't mean that there's going to be remnants that are felt for a couple weeks to come. So maybe play it a little smart. Save it for something else. Save it for the new year. Play it for the right time.
I'll also say this, to give Marvel a bit of grace, and to come from me, it should be no surprise. But we're talking about DC announcements that have been in the works for years. So is it possible? I mean, it could be possible that Marvel has stuff that they are working on that is exciting, but they just aren't ready to show it yet. We know that Dan Buckley, who's the president, talked about their big push over the next year to try to get people back in comic shops and to try to bring fun back to comics. I don't know that we're seeing those things come to fruition yet, but maybe we will, in the second half of 25.
That reminds me, like you're a Warcraft, you were a Warcraft fan, Sean, but like BlizzCons, like sometimes you just have an off BlizzCon. It's just like all the production cycles don't line up, and you don't really have anything to announce at that time. And you just do what you can,
Exactly.
and then but then usually like if this happens again next year, then I think there's a problem. If it becomes like, oh, they just don't announce stuff at Comic Cons anymore, then there's an issue there. Um, there's a little bit of smoke. I don't know if there's a fire yet.
Jack says, and by the way, Jack, thank you for joining the Discord server. The Ultimate versus Absolute dynamic will be interesting. People seem way more hyped for the Absolute line. Well, because it feels more radical. I think that's really what it comes down to. There was an Ultimates line before. So it's a rehash of something from 20 years ago. Even though they don't feel the same, it's still the branding of something that existed 20 years ago. And B, yes, it's starting at one, but it's still pretty connected to mainline in the sense that, like in Ultimates 4, for example, you literally see that version of Doom watching a screen that shows him the normal Fantastic Four. So they're still willing to play with some of those ideas. Whereas Absolute, these are characters from the ground up with radically different approaches. What we talked about with Absolute Green Lantern feels like the green, and even Al Ewing said this during my interview with him. What if I created Green Lantern in 2024? What does that look like? That is what I want to see.
The Ultimate Universe is literally derivative. In fact, I think the most absolute thing about the Ultimate Universe is Peach Momoko stuff.
That's a good point.
CW Gordon, or no, I'm sorry. It's Aaron Ruiz says, I think it's quite difficult for Marvel. DC is kind of striking on two sides, nostalgia and new era. So Marvel has to retroactively change plans to match that excitement. Quite frankly, I don't think they can match it. DC is in their 4, 5+ years of planning is all lining up and releasing now. You can't make the announcement of Compact, Absolute, and All In within one calendar year if you just came up with them right then and there. That's just not how comics work. That's not how business works. This is years in the making.
Once you see Mark Millar back at Marvel, you'll know that Marvel is doing their reaction to DC's announcements like Hush.
Well, any reaction that we would see from Marvel
We won't see until
wouldn't
later. Yeah.
it wouldn't happen right now.
Yeah,
You literally cannot do immediate reactions.
it doesn't
That
work that way.
that's why like I'm not even sure that the premiere collections like they very well could be a reaction because even the like you
That
said
could
the
be a little quicker
covers,
turnaround. Yeah.
yeah. But I'm not 100% certain that they are. I'm not completely sure. It's not a crazy thought that both Marvel and DC were thinking about doing that right now, and manga is kicking their ass up and down the block. Of course, they're thinking about that. DC got out first, you know, and that's great. But I think if Marvel was truly reacting to what DC did, they would have had a stronger lineup than that. The books are good, but come on, the compact books. We're already what 3 waves deep.
Something like that. Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I think if the plan from DC was to react, um, and it would play out in 2-3 years time, I think even that is the wrong strategy. I think it's leaning into the things that they feel like are important for the company, the things that they think are important for the creators, and I think that the things that are important for the stories that they're trying to tell for those characters. So if they do see the nostalgia and the new era, and then we see nostalgia and new era in a couple years from now, that's going to be like, well, the conversation there for me might be, oh yeah, that's like that thing that DC did a couple years back with Wade when they brought him back, when Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee came onto the scene back again, um, or then with the new era stuff, if it's a brand new launch, oh yeah, that's the stuff that we saw with the All In initiative, right? If you're bringing all these people back in, um, to like more grounded stories, that kind of stuff, you can't look back on an initiative from another company and say, oh yeah, that feels derivative of something that I've seen in the past. You have to think of a new way forward. So for Marvel's end, give it time, but do something new, do something different.
Silhouette says, "Why is Marvel charging $15? Do they want to make it easy for new readers to get in, or did they just see DC doing something hot and wanting money out of it?" I mean, think like a businessman. If there is a hot commodity in the market and you have the capacity to get in on that, why would you not? You could call it anything you want. You could say it's aping, you could say it's stealing, you could say whatever you feel like saying. But if you're Marvel, there it's a no-brainer. If you're Marvel, you'd be stupid not to do it. I said I was very confident that they were going to do this because there's no way you don't. Manga is kicking their ass. They have to do something. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about Ghost Machine? I know we didn't plan for it, but Max makes a good point. We can talk a little bit about Ghost Machine because we were at the panel and we haven't really talked about our experiences. Go ahead, Tyler.
Well, I think the coolest thing about the panel right away was like Jeff sat down, saw us, and just came up to us and shook our hands. It's like, hey, what's up, guys? By name,
Yeah.
too. I was like, that's still weird.
So we were seated in the second row of the Ghost Machine panel, which was pretty cool. They had what felt like a smaller room, but they said that there were more people in it than last year's panel, which I believe for
It
sure.
was a deeper room, but it's thinner, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
And then so the creators got on stage and they were ready to do their thing. I waved at Jeff Johns. He kind of like, "Who are you?" Kind of did that, like, "What?" And then he, his eyes lit up because he realized it was me, and he walked over from the stage and he came and give us, handshakes and got a hug from him. So that was a really cool experience. Jeff and the crew, Ghost Machine, they are always so good to us. We had a lot of really, really positive interactions with them. Interviews coming as well. I spoke to Yvonne Reese and Brian Hitch, and that was great. So those will be up real soon. Actually, no, they're out already.
Elon Rice is out. Yeah, you can go check
Yeah.
out there's gonna be a second half of it that I have to clip. It's more short form content. We didn't have much time with Yvonne, so we had to kind of make that one vertical. But Brian Hitch will be coming up on the pod soon, the
Yeah.
feed soon somewhere.
Yeah, so they had everybody there. The only person who wasn't there was Brad Meltzer, and he's a busy guy. And they talked a lot about the response to Ghost Machine during year one, their commitment to thank you Neon Knight, their commitment to the idea of these are books by us. You're not gonna see fill in creative teams. You're not going to see, although we did just have Paul Pelletier fill in for Gary Frank on Geiger. That's cool, but it's like, we're not going to get like, all right, Jeff and Gary's time on Geiger is over. Now here's, Marco and Tyler. That's not the way it's going to work at Ghost Machine. And I feel really excited by that fact.
Yeah, we got a lot of sneak peeks of some of the stuff that's coming out, some of the covers that are coming out for the books that make references to other things. The universe feels like it's getting fleshed out,
Yeah,
and
that was
that's a lot of
yeah.
fun. Um, Man, an upcoming Junkyard Joe crossover. Hell yeah, the room
With what?
with Geiger, the room popped for that.
I think well not just Geiger either. I think that the two
Yeah,
things that jumped out to me was that the unnamed universe. So Geiger, Redcoat, Junkyard Joe. There seems to be a lot more integration coming in the next year. Um, with so First Ghost was teased as well. No official news on that yet. Jeff said next year or soon. TM. Um, so no solidified date on that. But there's a logo. It's out there. You can see that much. But there will be getting some more fleshed out stuff there. And then they kind of hyped up the Family Odyssey stuff. Which, guys, the Manipul art on Rockefellers. They showed us some of the completed pages. Gorgeous,
yeah,
gorgeous Manipul stuff. And listening to the Brian Hitch interview, which coming up, there is an excitement from these creators that we've seen for years to want to do some of their best work, if not their best work, on these books.
Well, when I spoke to Yvonne and Brian, they both said
Yep.
they feel like they're doing their best work of their career right now. And that's coming from two individuals who have been working in comics for 20 plus years. They're veterans and they feel like today they're doing their best work. So that's why I always say, let's cut the ageism shit out. Stop it. Stop doing that. Because these people are insanely talented. They're working. Brian Hitch, these men are in their late 40s, early 50s.
I had to figure out what my lower third credits for Brian Hitch would be when I was editing the video. I'm like, what do I credit him with? There's so much. Um, but like the stuff he's doing in Redcoat, he's excited. So imagine that, but Manipul having that kind of energy. Like Manipul, who's done Justice League, he's done Flash, he's done pretty much some of the what we imagined to be his best work. Now we're going to see his new best work. So it's gonna be nuts. It's gonna be nuts.
Neon Knight says, is Hyde Street an ongoing or a mini? It's an ongoing. I don't think they've announced any minis. We do have a series of one shots that are coming from the Hyde Street universe. They're going to be called, one is called Devour. That's by Maital Jut. And I'm sorry. I'm not sure if it's, if,
It's she.
I'm not sure if that's the, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. She really talked passionately about this one
yeah.
shot and how important it was to her and how personal it was and how she was pulling from real lived experience of not just her but people all over the world. And the pitch was essentially, because if you ever read Hyde Street, the gimmick is that if you've lived if you've made certain choices in your life, and they could be big, they could be small, but they were wrong, that could land you on Hyde Street. So you're walking down the street, you turn the corner, all of a sudden you're on Hyde Street. It can happen to you anywhere in the world. And so for this particular book, it's about a woman who wants to fit into her wedding dress. And she's got her mother, she's got her grandmother telling her that she's got to lose weight, she's got to fit into this dress, she's got to do whatever she's got to do. And on Hyde Street, there is a resident, which is what some of these characters are called, the ones that live on Hyde Street and do the killing and whatnot, who owns like a diet brand, and really supposed to be reminiscent of like 80s diet culture and aerobics and all that jazz. Very, very interesting setup. I don't know if I did it justice, but I definitely recommend picking up Hyde Street #1 and then grabbing the Devour one shot when it drops later this month.
Yeah, and the trade dressing on that's gonna be it happened on High Street. So any one of those one shots is gonna be under that. And just telling stories in that world. And I thought the premise for that was really cool, really interesting. I like the way that she mentioned, that everyone has those feelings, those emotions, and I think for horror, it works when it's a feeling that is familiar at large, because then everybody has a kind of experience and it becomes creepy when it starts to deviate.
And then they also Lamont McGee's Hyde Street book was announced as well, which Jeff did mention was a mini. So we don't have a date on that. He said probably second half of next year. Do you remember the name? They had a logo for it.
I don't
The
know.
Soulless.
The Soulless. Yes, yes, yes. And Jeff said the first issue is 60 pages, accidentally
64.
almost, but they would not tell us the artist.
It's
Yeah,
weird because the Soulless was announced last year.
Yeah, and we don't even know what it's about. We just know that it is part of that. It happened on Hyde Street, kind of Hyde Street adjacent stories, and it's a mini. That's all we know so far. And Lamont was real again, like real passionate about it. He got choked up a bit towards the end there, but he also couldn't tell us what the story was about. So it was a little bit not confusing, but it's like, all right, if he tells us what the story is about, it's going to reveal too much. So excited for it though. He was passionate about it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to, because it's been a year already. Like, Jeff Johns is the man, but I want to read more or anything from these other creators, because there are other voices at Ghost Machine on the writing end that I want to hear from. And so I'm really excited to see Maytal's work here at the end of the month. But man, they got to get Lamont out there. He's like, we don't know you, like, it's not about him, but like, I want to know these people, I want to know their work.
And not for nothing, only black guy on the panel that we know of.
yeah.
So having that, extra voice, and I wonder, like him talking about how personal the experience is to him. I wonder if that has something to do with it, like a lived-in
Sure.
experience there. But a more diverse voice, like those are the two diverse voices you have there. The rest is comics as it is. So yeah, I would like to see them play in the sandbox more. But we have Tomasi coming up too, so it's been a while since I've
And
seen. I read a
supposedly
Tomasi book.
some new artists that have yet to be revealed.
Big
some of that
artists
stuff.
too. Like
Yeah.
Jeff was kind of hyping this up, and like on the same level as like Brian Hitch and Eamon Rice.
Yeah.
And like I was racking my brain, I'm like, who the fuck could it be?
Same.
And I couldn't figure it out.
I
Unless
just
it's
I
like,
just want to wait and see, man.
if he could
Surprise
get
me.
if he could get Eminem out of retirement, that'd be huge. That'd be massive.
Yeah, Ghost Machine continues to be really exciting to me. Image has, we went to, Marco and I, or no, Tyler was there too. We went to the ICV2. They did an event. Tyler wasn't there.
In
No,
spirit.
it's Thursday.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God, we've all said it. Con brain. Um, and the point I wanted to make is that Image is on the rise, and they attributed that to the combination of Ghost Machine's launch and the Energon universe stuff. They're doing big, exciting things.
Which we will be having Energon videos coming out as well.
Yeah.
Expect to see that. With some interesting, very candid stuff that was spoken about on that.
Can't wait to see
Part
it.
of me was like, do I edit this out? But I didn't, so we'll see.
Max asks, was there any Rook Exodus stuff? So Rook is going to be dropping only 6 issues per year because of Jason's Jason Fabok's incredibly detailed style. You know, it takes a lot of time to do that kind of work. That's fine for me. You tell me what to expect, I'll accept it. Okay, so what?
I don't want a solicitation to surprise.
Yeah, yeah. Let them do their thing. Let's just let it happen. I want quality work, consistent work, and I know that that's what I'm going to get with that book. So I'm happy to be patient.
The other thing too is like Rook Exodus is a separate corner of that. So who's to say there's not a Rook universe book that is being worked on by someone else?
Yeah,
There could be. Honestly, I expect there to be. To especially fill in those gaps when Fabak isn't, working on Exodus. So we'll see.
Well, dude, how many of these creators at Ghost Machine have had problems in the past with delays? So to me, the promise of, look, we're not delaying books. We're getting our books out on time when we say we will, and we're not leading you astray by telling you that we're going to put out 12 or 11 issues of Rook a year when we know we can only do 6. They're not soliciting stuff that they can't meet the deadline of. It annoys me that I haven't read anything by Lamont, but if it's not ready, then it's not ready. Don't rush it.
I ain't eating undercooked chicken.
Exactly. Just because you're hungry.
yeah.
Yeah. No, totally. Cole says, did you guys hear that Zeb Wells and Steve Epting joined Rick Remender's Giant Generator at Image? Yes, I did. That is very exciting. I've been wondering what Zeb's next big thing would be after Amazing Spider-Man. Like, how do you parlay that into a creator-owned thing? Because that's always what these creators do.
Although, if we see a throuple situation again, we got to talk, Zeb. We got to talk to you.
Oh, my God. I mean, honestly,
Right where you know it, man.
Zeb's run on ASM. Yeah, I want to read more of what he has to say in a different space. Sure.
Agreed. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
agreed.
love Zeb's work. Yeah.
And Steve Epting, come on, one of the goats, please.
Yeah.
God, Rick Remender, he just takes all the best artists in comics and says they're mine. Come here, Steve Epting, you're mine. Come here, Max Fiumara, you're mine.
Again, like Zeb, like writers too. Seeing
Yeah.
that fleshed out a little
It-
more, be great.
Let's not go crazy. Um, yeah, no, I mean it's very exciting. I'm looking forward to that. Giant Generator is buzzing as well. So there's a lot of cool stuff out there, man. It's a great time to be a comics fan. It really is.
the collectives of just super uber creatives.
Yeah.
Unless you're in line waiting for a Peach Momoko spawn variant, be a little careful.
You want to talk about that for a little bit? We got to get out of here. Jesus.
If we do, yeah. I just know there was a fight. That's all I know. I wasn't there for it.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, I want to say it was a couple of years ago at New York Comic Con, there was a big fracas that happened over Peach Momoko artwork. She was doing a deal where she was giving like original, not I don't know if it was an original sketch or whatever it was.
Remarks, I believe.
Yeah, remarks for $20. And retailers who notoriously have access to getting into Comic-Con ahead of people, they all went to her booth and got in line and bought all this stuff up so that fans weren't able to get any. And there was a lot of frustration. And I don't know if a physical fight really did break out, but I know there was a lot of yelling and it was a really intense situation that made Peach not want to do that anymore.
And she wasn't here this year, and there was still a fight over her art.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
And
don't expect to see her anytime soon at New York Comic Con.
This time punches were thrown.
Yeah.
And that's just disgusting. I mean, what like think about what comics is. It's first and foremost, it is a creative art form. It is a storytelling medium. When did this happen? When people are more interested in the monetary value of what they have over the creative value of what they have. People just don't give a fuck. They're not doing that. Those retailers weren't doing that because they just love Peach Momoko so much. They're doing it because they know that when they go back home, they can sell those. I think they were on eBay for 300 plus this weekend.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. it's a good cover, but and it's not
It is a damn
it's
good
not
cover.
worth selling to that degree. Like that's the stuff. That's the kind of stuff that I feel like if you're appreciating this, you hold that. You hold on to that. That's near and dear art because it's a good creative. It's a good showing. You want to see that artistry.
Todd McFarlane was also around signing those copies, so like it was a double whammy. It was like, oh, it's Peach
Damn,
and Todd, so like people were like, this is speculator wet dream right here.
that's
Cole
crazy.
says, go ahead.
Yeah, those Spawn books are already going for $300 to $500. They were selling them for $40. But see, that's scummy, man. Like you're there because you want, ideally, you want that book, you want that cover to go to somebody who grabs it and says, "This is incredible. This is going in my collection."
And instead, it's people being like, hey, how do I wash out the cost of my ticket?
Right.
It's vile. It really is vile. And I want you guys to also know that that kind of shit is the reason why creators charge money for signatures. It's the reason why that cover
Mm.
was going for $40 because they are aware of what you are going to do. Not you, you listener of this podcast, because you're a good person. These are the scumbags that they're worried about who go to these events. I was trying to get a copy of Absolute Batman #1, cover A, from Scott Snyder. The guy that was working the booth told me that they ran out of copies because people were coming over and buying 10 and 15 at a time.
No, dude. Come on.
They were $20.
Yeah, they really milking that. What was it? What's normal cover price is
But,
$6.
you know,
$6.
guys, pick up a trade, and I'm not talking on paperback, all right?
It's
Get,
just sickening.
get your
It
money
really
elsewhere.
is. Just sickening to me. Yeah, so that was go ahead.
But the con was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Saw some great people there.
Zach G said, any thoughts on Tiny Onion? Yeah, so we actually got to go to the Tiny Onion booth. We were able to make some connections there, and hopefully you'll be seeing some of their presence here on the podcast. I really am into what they've got cooking. Looks good.
Whoever is doing their merch, fucking killing it. Great
Yeah.
merch. Some of the best merch for a publisher being sold. There was some real good marketing going on there.
Even some of the concepts for like
Oh, you would,
wh-
yeah.
yeah, I got the newspaper, man.
Oh,
Like
they
it's
literally
just
had like a New York style newspaper thing, right? Yeah,
yeah,
like the
for a dollar
dispenser.
you getting coins. They had a guy there that you give him a buck, he can gives you the change. You put it in, get this thing out. It's cool, and I love this kind of stuff. This is nerdy. Just hold on, look at this one. Tinian Walsh coming 2025. This is just like that nerdy,
Ooh, okay.
kind of underground comics feel, and that's attractive to me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. I got one of those newspapers too. It's really sick that they did that. I had so
Yeah.
much fun putting the quarters in. But they even had nice pins. Like I bought a couple of their pins. Like it's just really cool what they've got going on. And I think Tiny Onion is another space that we can expect some really good stuff to come. I mean, they've already, James Tynion has already done so many incredible books. This is just the promise of more with other creators in the mix. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Near asks, was there any toy figure showcases you enjoyed? I didn't get to go to the toy figure ones. They were kind of overlapping with a lot of the stuff we had planned. But in terms of announcements, the X-Men 97 Sentinel they're putting on sale that is giant sized for $175. It's expensive, but I missed that original Sentinel. That was like 400, and this one's like the animated series. Let's just say you might see me on a corner sometime soon, so I can get one of these. Some great McFarlane announcements too. We're getting a Wildcat figure, guys. Wildcat, cool. And there's a really cool Swamp Thing figure that I didn't show you, Marco. It's like a big, fat, bulky vinyl Swamp Thing that I think you'd like to see.
You'll have to show me. Sorry, I was fighting because my cat was biting my variant cover of Hayden Sherman's Into the Unbeing.
Cats,
Little
man.
shit, dude. I don't know if you can see it, but started nibbling on it right here.
Oh yeah, well that's gonna go through. Yeah,
Yeah, little fucker.
Yeah, well,
you
just
didn't
don't
give him a
kiss him
big
again.
smooch on the podcast.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out to Matt Lesnowinski. This is a variant for the Into the Unbeing.
All right. Let's share, like, if we can do a handful of our favorite moments from the con or just our reflections, whatever you guys want to talk about before we close out of this.
Um,
Uh,
meeting BJ from Comics Are
oh,
Dope.
yeah.
Guess what? BJ's dope.
Yeah.
Really, really down to earth, chill guy.
Yeah.
Like I don't even remember, like I was just talking about like as a person. I don't even know if we talk comics that much. We were just hanging out. So that was really cool.
Good guy. Uh, for me, it was the earlier today actually. I got into a long conversation with Gavin. I was really curious about like how he thinks about his art and how he thinks about speaking about um, critiquing art. And he gave me a walkthrough of issue 11 because that's what the those are the pages that he was selling, and he basically walked me through the entirety of the issue from the cover, from the variant cover, all the way through to some of the reasons why he made certain angles, the reason why he made certain people pop out of a page, why sometimes there's a lack of background in a panel here and there, and what he tries to get across from a narrative perspective, as well as what he tries to get across from an emotional perspective. And that combination was killer, man. I was getting a class. It was awesome.
Do we all have one-on-ones with Gavin? I feel like we all did at a certain point.
I
Yeah,
did. Yeah.
and I feel like they're
That's
all wildly different. Like when I talked to Gavin, we talked about like marriage, living in New Orleans, and having cats. Like I don't think we talked art once. We were just like shooting the shit.
so
I had,
funny.
I had a long conversation with Gavin.
One that was recorded as well, which will be on the feed too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. We finally got Gavin live and in living color on the channel, so we're gonna be able to post that interview with him this week. But privately, yeah, we had a real deep discussion. Just a great human being, somebody that I'm really happy to know, and I hope we get to get even deeper with down the road. And then during our conversation, we were actually joined by Chris from Comics Tropes, who it was really cool to meet in person. I'm sure a lot of you guys have watched his channel, and it was cool to meet him. I've used some of his videos for my research for when we did the New 52 deep dive. Just a wealth of knowledge, and he was a really genuine good guy. So shout out to Chris from Comic Tropes. That was great.
It's funny. I bumped into Wes Craig at Gavin's booth. We talked to Wes Craig for a little bit. Oh,
Fucking A, I didn't get to see Wes
dude,
Craig.
I saw Wes Craig constantly throughout the con, but he was just talking and hanging out with people. This dude was making his
Yeah.
rounds. He's a chill dude. Again, I don't even think I talked to Wes Craig about art. I was like, we were just talking. So
Did
it's
he
one
remember you?
when I brought up like, yeah, I was with you when you saw Frank Miller and you freaked out last year. And he's like, oh yeah, I remember you now. And I'm like, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that was him. Yeah,
Yep.
that's right.
He's like, yeah, I got cold feet. I'm like, it's fine, I understand.
He went to go say hi to Gavin. Then he went over to go to Declan Shalvey. He just like he was just chatty Cathy.
Aaron Ruiz says you guys got to speak with Tilly Walden once again. Probably one of my favorite guests on the show. No, sadly we didn't.
We not for lack of trying, but her schedule was very packed tight. She was with Tegan and Sarah the whole time, who are celebrities. So, yeah,
She wasn't there. I don't think every day either. So
no.
uh,
Triple Ho says, did Sean get a copy of Absolute Batman cover A? Yes, I did. And if you will look closely, you will see that I got it signed by the man himself. I was very lucky, and I already told the story, so you'll have to listen back to find out how that went down. But yeah, I was very lucky. Now, I spent $25 on this
oof.
cover, so that's brutal.
At least it's bagged and boarded and is away from food.
Yes,
Okay.
it is away from food.
Well,
And also, I double fucked up because I didn't bring my Dan Panosian cover for him to sign.
Mm,
next time.
Dumbass.
Next time.
Speaking of Gavin Guidry, though, I was able to get this beautiful gem. This is a copy of Birds of Prey number 13, excuse me. And this is Gavin's variant that he did. He signed it for me. And if you will look closely, you can clearly see that Zealot is showing her hand. Particularly, she is showing that she is wearing a half glove. You guys know the lore. If you know Comics Pals lore, you know how important a half glove is to me and what that means. And so Gavin did that for me. He did that for us. So enshrined in DC history forevermore is a Comics Pals Easter egg. So shout out to Gavin. You're a real one for that.
And I snagged a Kingpin from Gavin, so he gets to go up on my Marvel villains wall
Oh yeah.
behind me. So
Oh,
Gavin
he did
gets.
have villains. Nice.
Yeah. I was hoping he had some Marvel stuff in there. He had some real good Hulks actually.
Damn, I didn't get anything from Gavin. He bestowed me with knowledge. It's
There
right
you
here.
go.
Look, you can.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mike Hank says, did anyone get the Akira cover? I didn't see it. Did anybody see it?
There was an Aqua cover?
I saw prints of Absolute Batman's Akira cover. I did
Nah.
not see the cover itself though. The Midtown booth was weird this year. It was kind of tied in directly with Ghost Machine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what that was back there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
I asked them, "Oh, do you guys have any copies of Absolute Batman #1 cover A?" And they were like, "Oh, we're not selling any non-Ghost Machine books." They say that, and I look down, and literally everything I can see is a DC comic book that was, but they were all the caveat was that they were all done by
The
the
creators.
Ghost Machine creators, but they weren't selling any individual issues of non-Ghost Machine titles. So
That's funny.
it's very nice that my local comic book shop couldn't help me get another copy of Absolute Batman #1. So shout out to those of you who have told me that your LCS has copies. They ain't my LCS. That shit didn't help me out. I had to pay top dollar to get this.
And
Sucks.
Aaron, speaking of Tilly, I got a signed copy of Spinning. I wanted to double dip on this one and get this one in physical. This is great stuff. And I had separately gotten her Cosmic Slumber set of tarot cards for my girlfriend because she really likes tarot. And this was a limited release, I think, of her take on tarot. So if it's interesting to you, would highly recommend it because these images look incredible.
Hey, somehow, some way, we still have about 90 of you hanging out here with us at 11 p.m. Eastern. I know that's not the time for a lot of you. You guys are all over the world, which is a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for hanging out. Make sure you smash that like button if you haven't yet. Be subscribed to the channel. Those things help us out a ton. Really want to shout out the super chatters today. After the long, arduous weekend we had, and I'm not trying to, play a violin for us or anything like that. We had a great time. It was a great event, but it is tiring. It's a labor of love. And so you guys showing us that support and love back means the world. Really appreciate you. Naysayers said, did we get any news about the Spawn universe in 2025? Um, Go ahead, Tyler.
There was Spawn news. I'm not tapped into that. I apologize.
Yeah. I also wasn't tapped in. I mean, to be really honest with you, we did not. This is a show we didn't prepare for. We just knew we had to do a show for you guys, and we came to do it. There wasn't a lot of prep work. I was learning a lot of the news as I was reading it. So we just really wanted to make sure we got a show out for you guys. There is still a little bit of New York Comic Con news and notes that we're going to dig into next week. Particularly, I want to talk about Global Comics. They were really good to us. That's a digital, reader app or whatever. And they just signed DC Comics to a contract. So big deal. Marco was able to get an interview with their president. And so that will be out on our channel soon. Great interview, great conversation. And I got firsthand experience with their app. And you know how I feel about digital comics. So I will be sharing my thoughts on that next week.
Sean, did
Nice.
the demo have Digimon involved with it?
I didn't see that.
I thought I read something about Digimon like being a manga that was part of Global Comics. I don't know. I was con brain.
You might have. I mean, I was reading. What was I reading? I was reading Batman, the Long Halloween on digital, so that was kind of cool. Tilo says she spawned by Gail Simone's. Oh, stop it, Tilo. That's crazy. That is hype as hell.
That is pretty cool, actually. Yeah. She Spawn,
Wow.
good character, cool looking character. I gotta say.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And Gale? All right.
I'm not going crazy. Digimon Liberator is a manga that is specifically on Global Comics.
Sick. CW, unfortunately, we've been banned from reviewing Spawn.
Hey, Gale, she Spawn, ban lifted,
No,
Immediately.
ban lifted.
No, he said no.
beautiful thing.
Put it on the
We've been,
poll. Put it on the poll.
I mean, fuck that. If Tyler's saying the ban is lifted, it's just going to be in the show.
There it is.
Hey, put she Spawn on the poll. You gotta tell me twice. It's Comics Pals After Dark, everyone.
Triple Ho says, I'm looking forward to Bug Wars by Jason Aaron and Mahmoud Asrar.
Yeah.
Well, sir, that gives me an opportunity to show you this bad boy that I was able to
Hell
snag.
yeah.
Ahead of release, I got a copy of Bug Wars from Jason Aaron, and I believe he didn't sign it. No, he had to. Yeah, he did sign it. Okay, yeah, there it is. There's the John
that's it.
Hancock. He was great. I was able to speak with him. That was a great conversation. Not we don't have an interview from the con coming with him, but we are going to be able to have him on the channel. And he said, he was like, I'm excited to be doing some interviews right now because I've got these projects coming out. And I said, well, shit, man. Then I guess I have to buy it from you so that when you come on, I can talk about it. So I grabbed that preview copy. He was nice enough to sign it for me, and hopefully we can have Jason Aaron on the channel real soon to talk about these things. That's about it, though. That's about it. I mean, we had an incredible, incredible, incredible weekend. Oh, I didn't even tell you guys my highlights. Jesus Christ. Um, I spent a lot of time having deep conversations with creators. I love that. Some of it was a revelation for me about my life and my journey and what I need to do. I need to be, focusing on things that are important to me. Creating comics is something that's important to me, and that's something that I need to be thinking about a lot more in the future. And these creators that I was able to speak to really hammered that home for me. So thank you to those individuals. You know who you are. Also, getting a hug from Jeff Johns while he was doing a signing, and Kat, huge shout out to Kat, our point of contact with Ghost Machine. She pulls me aside and she's like, "Oh, did you get FaceTime with Jeff Johns?" And I was like, "No, we didn't." So she yanks me and pulls me over behind the booth area where they're all there signing. And Jeff gave me a great big hug, and was excited to see me, and that was a beautiful moment. I've been reading Jeff Johns comics for 20 years. So for him to be excited to see me is fucking mind-blowing. I would never have believed you 10 years ago if you said that that was going to happen. But it did. And that's life, kids. Your dreams can come true. Cool things can happen for you. You just have to keep pushing. There was no indication that we would be even this big 3 years ago.
I did not know I'd be talking to Robert Kirkman this weekend. Like, what?
Right. Yeah. It's insane. It's insane what can happen for you. It's very inspiring. It's very emboldening. And I hope that we can show you that over the next few weeks and months and years to come, because this is what we live for. We don't do this shit for the money, no matter how generous you guys are, and you are very generous to us. It's not for the money that we do this. It's for the love. So thank you for those of you who show us love every single week, those of you who came up and showed us love this weekend in particular, and those of you who will continue to show us love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will be back with our regular schedule Thursday night for Pals Pulse. We've got a hot docket. I'll share the books with you before we cut out. While I am doing that, make sure that you guys smash the like button if you have yet to. Be subscribed to the channel. We need that from you. We're going to be talking about the releasing Absolute Wonder Woman #1. Can't wait.
Ooh.
Superman #19, Iron Man #1, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #3, and the finale of the first arc of Rook Exodus with #6. Not too many weeks bigger than that in comics. So I'm very excited. We will see you then. Until next time,